morning, roadies. Good afternoon. Good morning. Good evening. It's a mental health show on Tottenham On Tour. I'm here with Mr. Brian Daigle. It's a big show today. We're very excited about that. We got some great guests. We're going to be discussing obviously a very important subject. It is going to be sport related and football related to some extent, but this is a little bit more than that. It's obviously a little bit different than what we normally do on this channel, but we think it's an incredibly important discussion to have. It's really close to my heart and to Brian's heart as well. And we have some guests on who we've become friends with in this community that we're going to have discussions with later on as well. Brian, good to see you, brother. How are you?
Yeah, it's good to see you, matey, and to everyone that will be watching the show. As you rightly said, mate, this is a show that has great relevance to you and me, and it's something that I've dealt with for a long part of my life. And thankfully, we live in a world now where it's getting more attention and it's getting the respect that it totally deserves. And after doing it the first show with you, which we took great pride in, we always wanted to do another one, and today is the day. So this is going to be a fantastic show that I'm proud once again to be part of, but proud to be with you again doing this. And how are you, my good friend?
I'm good. I've been nervous all day because this is it's a heavy subject, and of course, I'm going to be talking a little bit about my own personal experience with mental health and addiction, which I haven't really done publicly before. So I'm looking forward to that, but also a little bit skittish about it because it is, put yourself out there, which I think you've inspired me to do. A few things about this stream. You'll notice in the top corner there's a pinned link for GoFundMe. We are encouraging everybody, instead of using the typical way of donating the super chats, because the super chat money, 30% of that goes to YouTube. We'd rather, I think it's only 5% that GoFundMe take. So we'd rather GoFundMe take a little bit of that money and most of it go to the two charities. The two charities are CAMH, which is a Canadian mental health organization that essentially is a Canadian wide across the country. They supply all kinds of resources and stuff. We'll get into some details with that with one of our guests, Sean. And then we've got Sport Against Suicide with Tara Hancock, who's going to discuss suicide in particular. And I want to talk about a bit about that before we get started, because if you are skittish about this, or if this is something that's harder for you, it's a trigger to discuss, we will be talking about suicide. We will be talking about heavy things. It's not for everybody, and some people are in different places in their life and they're not able to necessarily have that conversation. So it's a warning up top in case you are going to potentially struggle with that. And we will remind people throughout as these things come up. If you're new to the stream and you're showing up a little bit late, we'll try to remind people that that's the case, and hopefully not in any way offend anybody or make anybody upset. So Brian, anything to add? I want to bring on Adam momentarily here, but I just want to check with you before we do that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just want to thank everyone for watching this, and we're just hoping, like I said, we had such great success with the last one, where I'm sure Sean will say he won't say who for obvious reasons, but he kept in contact with people, and I was getting messages and we were getting emails from all over the world saying thank you so much for doing this show. It opened my eyes. It helped me realize that there is help and you can talk to people. And like I said, just hearing people went into therapy, whether it worked for them or not, we don't know, but at least they took the step to try. And that's what we're trying to do here. Obviously, it's something we'll continue to do. This is a very, very near and dear subject to our hearts. So yeah, we're just hoping that obviously it gets to the right people.
Absolutely. One more thing before we move forward, I just want to let everybody know we're donating. We're taking donations today, but we're also taking donations for the rest of the month of February. So if you aren't watching this live, and many people won't be, it's the middle of the day here in Canada. Some people are, getting ready for bed in different parts of the world. Please watch the show. You can go to the same link and you can donate for the rest of the month. And we're going to try to, obviously raise as much funds as we can for these great charities, and hopefully help them out in any way they can, and hopefully help as many people out as possible. I'm now going to bring in Mr. Adam Clark. Adam, is good to see you, buddy. How are you?
Not bad.
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks. Just glad that we're finally being able to, do the show, and I appreciate it. The support we've been getting for the past 2 days. All the shadows we've gotten on all the socials. It's been fantastic. Like, I've never seen so much support for one show in all my life, and I follow some big YouTubers. So I mean, yeah, we're really appreciative of everyone watching and donating as well, and who are going to donate. We're up to 307.
Yeah, I was going to say, as well. Speaking of support and donation, why don't you show folks how they can do it and what it looks like when they go to the link.
Share the screen. So take that as my cue. So I'll share the screen there. Sorry, folks, might take a bit, but here we go.
I will just say, whilst Adam's doing that, we just want to say thank you. I mean, the show's only just started, and we'd already received this amount before the show started. So, so thank you to everyone for helping us reach that. Even at the beginning of the show, it's fantastic to see. So, thank you for your support, Adam. Back over to you, buddy.
Yeah, sorry, and just quickly, sorry, Ads, before you go on that, you'll notice some names here. You don't have to put your name on it. You can donate anonymously, and I just wanted to point that out. Go ahead, Ads.
Yeah, no, it's a good thing you mentioned that, actually. So this is the main page where you can donate. I mean, as you can see, it's up to 307 Canadian dollars at the moment. Now, I have something written down here that I want to remind you of. Sorry, folks, coming across as very unprofessional here. Oh, yeah. Check your conversion as well if you're in England, because, pounds to dollars, the currency thing. I mean, you should know what I'm referencing here. So just be sure to check that because of the currency difference. So, I mean, yeah, it's really simple. Like, if you want to share the link out at any stage, it's to your friends or people who even aren't Tottenham supporters, like just anyone at all like who you think can help, and because every single cent of this, like I said in the preview, is going to the mental health charity. We're not spending 1 cent, like not 1 cent of this is going into our own pockets. This is all going to the mental health charities, great causes, help save people's lives. So, I mean, if you want to donate, but one important thing, there's absolutely don't feel pressure to donate. I mean, there's no obligation. This is like, charity. So, or if you want to donate, fine. But if you just want to watch, that's also just fine. Like, I mean, like the lad said, this is going to be up for the whole month. So, I mean, there's no need to panic at all. I mean, yes, this is simple. Donate now, share, boom.
Excellent. Thanks. That's fantastic stuff about, it's not a necessary thing to donate. There's a lot of good information you're going to get here. And if you need to have any conversations with any professionals, this is the place to get the information. Adam is going to be joining us in and out of the show as we hit milestones. Adam, why don't you talk a bit about that? Because we do want to hit those milestones.
Yeah. So like I've been posting in the community section a lot now, so some people at least will already know that our goal at the moment is to get to $2,000, raise that. But then as we hit that goal, we're going to go up and up and up. So I'm going to come on whenever we hit, our milestones. For example, we've gone.
We'll be close to 500 soon, hopefully.
Yeah, 500. Yeah. So like you'll probably be seeing me in about a few seconds or even like a minute or two. So, or like, I mean, like we're flying at the minute. So 500 will be a milestone. Then we're going to up that to 1,000. Then 2,000, 5,000, and it'll, so on and so forth. So whenever we hit that milestone, I'll just chime in and say, hello, we've hit another milestone, and then I'll be on to announce that. And yeah, when I'm on, we might even go through a few comments as well, and like we'll see. But I mean, that'll depend, of course, because it's like the topics we want to discuss, or at least that the two of you and the guests want to discuss, are very important. So I mean, unfortunately, like for those in the comment section, we won't be bringing up a lot of comments this evening, but we'll do our best. Like, I mean, if the comment is relevant, or if there's an at in this, if you want to ask us a question personally, then fine, we'll do our best to bring it up. I just wanted to make people aware that, just in case they thought we were ignoring them. I mean, like we wouldn't dream of doing that.
Cheers, Ads. That's a good shout. Definitely not a normal stream as we would normally do it. Yeah. We'd be interacting with you guys as much as possible. This interaction will happen, from a personal perspective, and just to let everybody know too, if you look in the description, all of the information you're going to see, or at least links to the information you're going to hear, there's going to be access there. You're going to have all the numbers, all the links, all the websites, everything is there in that description. So if you feel like you missed something we put on screen, hop to the description, and if there is anything missing, feel free to email us as well at info.tottenhamontour@gmail.com. And that's also in the description as well, in case I said it too quickly or if I said it wrong. But so all of that information is in the description in the YouTube on our YouTube channel. And just wanted to let everybody know that. Ads, so we're gonna let you pop out for a bit and let us know in the private chat if we hit any of those milestones or when we do, and we'll bring you back.
Cheers, I love you and leave you. Good luck, lads.
Cheers, Ads.
Excellent. All right. So now it's time to introduce our wonderful, wonderful guests. We have Mr. Sean Welbourn, and we have Tara Hancock. Tara Hancock is from Sports Against Suicide. Sean Welbourn. I'm going to let you describe this, and I'll get Tara to describe hers as well. But let's start with you, sir, in regards to what is it you do? I mean, you're on our previous channel, and we kind of had this conversation before. But I think there's a lot of new people that are watching this channel, and it's different. So give us a little bit of rundown of what you do and your gig. And of course, you are a Spurs fan, as everybody can see that the lovely crest in the back.
Certainly a Spurs fan first, yes. But thank you for having me back. First of all, May the 4th was quite an exciting event for us, and I think it really goes to show, doing another one, 8-9 months later, the need, the demand. Personally, I am a nurse and have worked in mental health in various areas over about the last 6 years. Been a nurse for about 15, but mental health was really my calling. I've noticed that getting into it, that this is where I need to be, and helping others is exactly what I want to be doing for the rest of my life. However long my career lasts, I don't think there's any way that I'll be moving on from here. So I work in an inpatient unit and an outpatient unit. COVID has actually kind of changed my position in a few different areas. I've worked in outpatient mental health for geriatrics. I've worked in it for teenagers. I've worked in it in an inpatient capacity as well, where we've seen any number of people who are in situational crisis, are at risk for suicide, as well as mental health disorders, schizophrenia, in acute psychosis due to addictions, etc. I think that the last May the 4th was actually wonderful for another reason, is that some people actually reached out to me, having had my contact information shared on that podcast. And it was a wonderful experience to kind of get to know some people who were reaching out and asking if there was any way I could help them. And, for some people, I think I did, a very good job at trying to at least get them in the right direction. I am not an expert. I am somebody who works in mental health. Anybody who purports to be an expert probably doesn't really know what they're talking about.
It's a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So in certain cases, I have met with people over Zoom and or WebEx since the May the 4th show, and have tried to guide them in the right direction wherever they needed to be, whatever it was that they were struggling with. And for some, I've made a good connection, and we continue to hold those connections, especially one gentleman here in Canada, a couple in the UK that I've also connected with, and tried to help as much as I can. Not knowing the UK system is a little bit different. Knowing the Canadian system better makes it easier for me anyways. But I'm really looking forward to this show and just listening to people's experience and helping out anywhere that I can in terms of letting them kind of understand, the services that might be available or where they could go to. And I actually put that out to anybody in the comments. If anybody in the comments has hotlines or tip lines for the areas where you're at, and you have them ready available, just put them in the comments. And then at least they're there for those people who might be more in your area. A lot of the there we go, Brian. A lot of the numbers for Canadian mental health are very regional. Now there is the CAMH, which is Center for Addictions and Mental Health in Canada. Which,
sorry to interrupt, Sean, which is who we're donating to today. So just to let everybody know that. Yeah.
So that is much more of a national hotline number. There are distress centers through whatever major urban areas that you're in, whether in Canada, whether you're in Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver. I put up the Toronto one. There's also a 211 number that isn't on this one. I believe this is from May the 4th, right? Yeah. So there's also, anybody can call 211 in Canada. And this is more for any type of psychosocial distress, whether you have housing difficulties, whether you're victim of domestic abuse, whether you're just in crisis. You don't necessarily have to have addictions or be suicidal, whether you just have a need that needs met. Anybody can call 211 in the country and get a crisis line worker.
And Sean, I've just added that in the comments as well.
Okay.
So if you didn't catch what Sean just said, I've just posted in the comments as well.
And that's me in a nutshell.
Excellent, Sean. Could you maybe tell us a little bit about CAMH? Because you're probably pretty familiar with their services and what they do, just to give a sense of what people are donating to. In that.
So CAMH provides counseling for any number of addictions or mental health concerns, whether it's depression, anxiety. They have suicide awareness programs that they offer as well to people in the community. They're connected with Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous as well. CMHA as well has a connection to CAMH that helps out with people in distress who have mental health disorders separate from any kind of addiction or suicidal thoughts or thoughts of self-harm, whether that be schizophrenia or any other number of mental health conditions, bipolar disorder, etc. But they provide programs and helplines available to crisis workers to help out anybody in the community within anywhere in Canada to just get the services that they need.
Awesome, that's fantastic. Brian, anything you wanna add, mate?
No, I mean, obviously, I know Sean through Toronto, Canada, or Toronto Spurs mainly, but obviously, I talked to Sean a lot. Obviously, I've spoken to him about some of the things I'm about to speak about. He's a wonderful human. Still haven't met him in person yet, but we're going to sort that out.
We're going to get there soon.
Scotland Yard is open again. I'll be home in 2 weeks, so we'll sort that out. But yeah, it's just wonderful to have Sean on. Sean has become a great friend, and the work he's done. I've told him that it's my dream to be able to get into counselling as well and help others, and he's trying to help me with that. He's just a phenomenal guy. The work he does is outstanding. The fact that he's kept connections with people is just credit to the great man himself.
Yeah, absolutely. We really appreciate you being here, Sean. I know you guys, you and Tara both, especially Tara now, it's pretty late for her, but what you're doing day in and day out, especially just generally speaking, before there's a pandemic for everybody to experience and have to go through what that does to mental health, but what you're already doing just on a daily basis, the effort, the work, the heart and soul that goes into that, it's massive. And, we thank you so much. It's really much appreciated. There's not almost no words for it to some extent, because it's a brave choice, I think, that people make to get into it. So thank you. Really, really appreciate that. Sean's going to be with us for the day. So, if you're in the comments and you have anything that you want to ask him, that sort of suits the conversation, or that we're just haven't had with him or are going to continue to have, just type in the comments at Sean, and we'll address those questions if they're specific to the person that you want to ask the question to. The same will be for Tara as well, and then we can ask those questions directly. Like I said at the beginning, or like we said at the beginning, we're not necessarily going to do this normally with all of the comments that come through, because it's just too much to try to do with this type of stream. But if you have an important question, you think that Sean or Tara will be able to help you with that question, please reach out and ask. I do notice that Kirst, who's going to be on later with us, is offering a ton of UK resources. Kirst, I am going to be posting most of those, but that's great that you've done that. I will be doing that at the end, and they're also in the comments, but really appreciate you doing that, Kirst. It's really
you just took the words right out of my mouth. I was just going to say thanks, Kirst. Two Brian think alike.
Absolutely. So I think it's time now. Well, Sean's going to stick with us as well, like I just said. But we're gonna now introduce Tara. And Tara's going to be with us in picture only, which is to comfort level for her, and this is where we're going to start. I'm going to do a quick slideshow with her. So Tara, welcome to the channel. Welcome to this stream. Really, really great to have you. And fantastic that you're here. I'm going to move you up to the top a little bit here so we can see a little bit better. So tell us about Sport Against Suicide, and tell us about your experience with it. This is your organization. Give us a rundown of it, and then we can go through some of the slides and what you're you're dealing with on a daily basis.
All right. Well, first of all, I will also sort of introduce myself as a Spurs fan first.
Yes.
before I because obviously I haven't got a picture there with any Spurs on it at the moment. But yeah, so basically, Sport Against Suicide is a charitable organisation that I founded in 2019. basically through what's also known as a lived experience. The year before, in 2018, was when my own life kind of, well, how do I put it? My mental health had suffered, I'd say a few times over the years, but nothing to this particular scale. It kind of just went downhill very, very quickly from sort of the Christmas time of 2017, New Year 18. Until we got to a particular game. Now, I said to you guys when I had a chat with you the other night, I was going to tell you my story because you didn't actually know how I became a Spurs fan, did you? So
we did. We'd love to hear it, though, for sure.
I'm looking forward to it.
It all interlinks. This is how it all kind of came about and why I went on to set up this organization. So, as I've just said, my mental health was suffering extremely, and it was kind of getting worse. But as all those people out there know, with our mental health, we keep it very well hidden, and the world did not know what was going on. To the world, I was still smiling, still going out, still having friends and just living my life. Although when I look back now, I'm surprised they couldn't see that I was in crisis because my behaviors weren't exactly, great at the time. But anyway, it kind of started to get to the point where it was becoming suicide ideation, which was then now turning into suicide intent. By the sort of July time, I was having these thoughts coming and going quite a lot. I literally just didn't want to be here. I'd got to the point where I felt life was no longer worth living. I'd had a number of things happen in my life since I was a child as well. That kind of was just a snowball effect right throughout my years until I got to that point. Anyway, this is how I became a Spurs fan. This one particular morning, I can give you the date. It was the 11th of August, 2018. Now, if you know the date and you know who Spurs were playing that day, you'll also interlink it with my slightly Geordie accent that I still have. And this morning, a friend of mine, he was messaging me, and because obviously he knew I was a Geordie and Spurs were playing against them that day up there, and thought he'd have a bit of banter and wind me up, sort of thing. Of course, he had no idea what was going on with me because I hadn't given off any reason for him to think otherwise. So we decided to have a little bit of a bet. Now, I must say at this point, gambling is not going to be the answer to your prayers, okay? It will not take away those mental health issues. But it was just a couple of pounds, so we kind of went off and put the bet on. He obviously up in Newcastle did his side. And I walked into the bookies and said, okay, first time for me. I would like to put a couple of pounds on Newcastle to beat Spurs. But while you're at it, a couple of pounds on Spurs to beat Newcastle. Because I wanted to at least wind him up when we got back. So then I went off and found a large screen to watch the game on. Now, bear in mind, I hadn't followed football. I wasn't a football fan at all up until this point. Both my boys are actual Fox fans for their sins. And basically, I found somewhere to watch the game. And I sat there and watched the two teams. I kind of knew what football was. The aim is to get the ball in the goal. What had happened in those 90 minutes is it gave me headspace. I'd stopped thinking about wanting to end my life. And I was just Tara watching a football match, just taking it in and actually finding myself enjoying it. And I watched the two goals, one by Jan and one by Dele on that day, and was really interested in this team. Now, much to my family's disgust, being a Geordie, why I didn't fall in love with my own home city. It actually turned out it was Spurs that I wanted to continue watching. So over the following weeks, I decided I'd watch more of their games. Because what also it gave me was a little bit of hope. It gave me something to focus on, something to aim for. So the next week, I watched them again. And you will probably remember we had a trot of wins at that time. It did all end, unfortunately, when we got beat by Liverpool. But I had got, I would say, well and truly hooked in, I guess. And I became not only a lover of the game, I was well and truly, I believe, a Spurs fan at that point, and I continued to watch them. So the following year in 2019, I decided I'd go and watch my first game. Now, this is where Elaine comes in. You know Elaine. You've
Yep.
We had her on the channel with Daryl.
Yeah.
Yep.
So on the 2nd of February, so literally just a few days ago, was our little friendship anniversary, we call it. I went to my local train station to catch a train to go and watch my very first game. Obviously, the game was at Wembley because we didn't have the stadium ready at that point. And I bumped into this lady on the platform with a Tottenham hat on, and I'd been given a cap by my son for Christmas. So I thought, there's a lady who knows where she's going. So I walked over to her and said, I guess you're going where I'm going. And our friendship kind of went from there.
That's great.
She then introduced me to so many other Tottenham Hotspur fans. I've made some great friends. And then over the months, I then got to April and decided to set up Sport Against Suicide because I wanted to give back. I wanted to advocate suicide prevention. And I felt that my audience, or our audience now, had to be young people. Because if we educate the youngsters on how they should look after their well-being, things that can happen to them in life, there's a chance that they may not go down that same route as I did. And anyway, so Sport Against Suicide was set up. We deliver workshops, as you can see, to football academies and football education programs. So that's where they're a student as well as playing their football for a couple of years. We also work in the community and deliver football for well-being sessions. So that's where we invite people to come along, make friends. Doesn't matter what your ability is. Believe me, even I play and that, I'm not that great, believe me. So so that's the kind of two things we do, but it's really focused on suicide prevention. And we do the two sides of that coin, so to speak, so that we get the youngsters and we get those who are obviously adults as well.
Fantastic. What age do you start at typically, or what age does the
the Academy Scholars, it starts from 16, so it's the 16 to 18 and sometimes under 23s, and then obviously the community side, we aim for 16 plus, but we do sometimes have the odd sort of 14, 15-year-old join us. So
nice, that's fantastic. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're doing specifically? We can go through the slides if you want.
Sorry, just say that again.
We could go through the slides if you like.
Okay, yeah, of course we can. Because something I did want to sort of point out to you, what we do is we encourage people to not just look out for signs in other people, but to try and look out for those signs in yourself. It's really important that we understand our mental health and understand when things are starting to change in our behaviors and our emotions and so on. But when we are looking at, looking for it, say, in other people, in our friends or family, and you do notice that something isn't the same, they've been acting slightly different, we want you to be to have the courage and not be afraid to approach that person and ask them. You've heard the usual, it's okay not to be okay. Reach out, ask them if they're okay. Ask them twice if you have to. Obviously, they may not come back and give you the answer, so don't worry if they don't. At least you're doing your best to reach out and go back again, or let them know, sort of say to them, okay, you know where I am. I may just check in on you again because I did notice that, just these little things about yourself, or this happened the other day, and I just want to know that you're doing okay. So when you do get to that point, we want you not to be afraid to ask the question, because we must talk about suicide if we're ever to prevent suicide. We've got to get rid of the taboo of just the word suicide. As soon as you mention it, people sort of recoil and disappear into the corners of the room. But we want it to be a really open question, just like when you talk about mental health. I think suicide, people tend to look at suicide being sort of, how do I put it, sort of the black sheep of the mental health. Oh, we can't talk about that, but we can talk about the mental health side. It's important that you do open up and talk about both and have conversations about it too. And when you do ask that question, these are the sorts of things I want you to consider. So shall I run through those, Brian? Yeah. Okay. So first of all, when they do open up to you and they do say that they have been struggling, listen to them. Yeah. So as we said, carefully listen to what your friend is saying, ask them about what they're feeling, how, what's been going on, and let them talk to you. Don't interrupt them when they're talking to you. Let them talk and just acknowledge them. Yeah. If you want to say anything, just sort of say, yeah, I hear you. All right. Rather than sort of try to make out that you've been there or make it about you, because although you might not mean to do that, it can easily happen. So just listen to them, be supportive. Yeah. And do not judge. That's the biggest thing. It's I'm hoping most of the people who are listening will fully understand that how we approach this subject and how we listen and take these people seriously will be the big difference in maybe getting them some help. So as I've said there, take them seriously. Never assume that they don't mean what they say. It's important to take comments about hurting themselves or wanting to die very seriously, and look to seek help from an adult. Sorry, I've said adult because that's young people that I tend to work with, but or an organisation or another peer. Someone you trust is who you need to be reaching out to. So like I say, it could be one of those organizations like Samaritans or Calm, or the doctor, their GP, and also offer to perhaps stay with them and help if they're at that stage. Be supportive, beg your pardon. So, and then ask that question. That's the one that you might think, how do I ask it? Well, just say it. Basically, are you thinking about suicide? Have you had any thoughts of suicide? Are you thinking of hurting yourself? It'll allow them to feel that you've noticed. And from what I'm told, it does. A lot of people go, wow, this person can see that I'm in pain, because they've probably been trying to give off signs that they're in that situation. And those subtle signs that nobody's really picking up on, and you have. So you've given them that opportunity to make that first move. Then the next biggest one, if they do tell you that they have been having these thoughts and they are planning on, have been having suicidal thoughts and want to die, the next one is have they made a plan? Be asking them that question. Have you made any plans? Have you started putting things in place? If they tell you that they have, this is where you are now in a state of crisis and it's an emergency situation and you need to be looking to ring for emergency services. Do not be afraid to do it. This is where life is in danger. If you can move to the next slide for me, please, Brian, that'd be great. Thanks. So what we mustn't do, you must not say you will keep it a secret if they ask you not to tell anyone. Now, I'm not saying you go out and you're telling the world or you're about to put it on Facebook or tell everybody you know. By saying that you won't keep it a secret is what you mean is you may have to break that confidentiality, as in like the first slide where I said you're having to ring emergency services. That's where you're having to go past it being a confidential conversation. As I've said, don't be afraid. That's another thing not to do. So, if you think your friend is thinking about suicide or you think they're having a hard time, it's not always obvious and it's better to ask them. And never say how they feel, okay? Because actually you don't. Even myself, as a lived experience, when I talk to other people, I don't know how they feel. It's very unique to you, to them. So, just acknowledge them. As I've said, that there's little magic words of, yeah, I hear you, mate. I do get that. Don't obviously try to make it. You're trying to empathize with them. So at the same time, it's not devaluing their own experience. And whatever you do, do not ignore them. Always take it seriously when anyone talks about wanting to die. So if we can move to the next slide, please. So there we are. There's some of the signs for you. Again, apologies. This is one of my slides that I do kind of show to the sports, to the footballers. But in terms of those things, they're very similar to us on the outside of football as well. So, you're looking at things like loss of interest in activities, deterioration in performance. Now, obviously, okay, if you play football, it could be that too. But it could be things like your work performance, just your performance in life in general. You're deteriorating in how your day-to-day life would normally be. Sleeping and eating habits have changed. So you could be eating too much, eating too less, sleeping loads, or just not sleeping at all. Feelings of hopelessness, which is the main one. You're changing your mood, anger and aggression, because it's not always sadness that you're going to see. It can be many other kinds of behaviors. Aggression is actually one of the things that can be happening, specifically in I will say men, because obviously you hold it in and you can be going around punching doors or kicking things over or just feeling angry in general. Or you could be feeling tearful. But there's things like the risk taking, the alcohol and the drugs. They could be in there being played within the suicidal intent as well. So be looking out for, we all like a drink. So if it seems like they're suddenly excessive with their alcohol, and then there's the other kind of little things going on too, it's an indication to check in. And yes, of course, there are some people who do take drugs. Some people smoke weed. You're looking again for, this isn't just the casual, smoke of weed. This could be like, again, excessive amounts along with all the other things. Be asking them these questions. Giving away your prized possessions. Okay, if I suddenly started to see Brian giving away all his memorabilia that he's collected over the years, I would be thinking something is seriously, seriously wrong. So I'd be asking him the question again, are you okay? Why are you giving me these things? Are you sure you're okay? Yeah, he may be feeling very generous, but I would be asking and feeling very doubtful. So yeah, so that's just a few. And obviously the list is not all encompassing. So if you're worried and you notice any changes, it's better to ask the question.
100%.
Yeah. So if we just move on to the last one, this is one that I just want to kind of say to you. Connectedness. So you're probably thinking, okay, what is that? Well, it kind of gives it away a little bit there on the screen. Connectedness is one of the biggest protective factors in suicide prevention, obviously amongst the other things about looking for signs and so on. But in terms of yourself, we all need connection in life. And the one thing for mental health, such as depression and anxiety and some of the more complex diagnoses, will do and likes to have you is isolated. And you will find that when you're depressed or anxious or having suicidal thoughts, you could be starting to push people away. This won't be happening at crisis point. This will be happening way before. This will start to be creeping up over a period of time. You'll start to distrust people. You'll start to feel like you're disengaged from the community. You may, if you've got a faith, you may have stopped going. Your family, no, not everybody gets on with their family, so I totally understand. But what you're looking to do here is to ensure that, as you can see on the screen there, is to be having these. They're like a kind of invisible safety net. Keep these things going. Engage, educate yourself on mental health, well-being, and all sorts of things in life. It helps you if you are suffering. When you don't know how to cope with negative thoughts, say, for instance, you're going to keep having them and you're going to be wondering what's going on and start to feel the distress. Once you know how to cope or to look at negative thoughts in a different way, you start to understand it a bit better. So therefore, you're kind of building upon your mental well-being. Purpose, reach out, do things in your community if you can. Again, if you have a faith, keep involved with your local church or synagogue or mosque, whichever your religion it is. And your interests. Now, this one, obviously, I tend to point this one out more so to those who play football, especially the young academy scholars. You must have other interests. Now, I suppose you could flip this on the side. If all you think about is Tottenham Hotspur, and it's the only thing you've got in your life, and you've got nothing else. Now, God forbid, it isn't about to disappear overnight, but in terms of when something is taken away from you, so say it's something else, that is like a collapse. And if you haven't got these things in place to support you when you're going through a tough time, that's when you fall into the danger of going down that dark route. Obviously, is what I say to the youngsters is their football, do not just have football as your only interest. It should not be your only identity. All these other things make up your identity, your interests, your community, your friendships, and so on. So I hope that's kind of given a little bit of a...
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, this is a great slide. I think this slide sort of represents a lot of what our Spurs community has become in a lot of ways. There's all of these things are sort of happening amongst it. So, really,
definitely for me, where I was to where I am now, and the friendships I've made and the things that have changed in my life and all of those things that you see kind of on there are a part of my life now.
Yeah.
And having the Spurs community and all the friendships I've made and meeting up for games and the jollies and things like that, it really has made a difference. And I would urge you to do the same. Get involved and do things.
Yeah, absolutely. Just I'm going to pop up the resources that we showed the Canadian ones before. Do you mind sort of quickly running through these a little bit for us?
Yeah, of course. Well, Mind, everybody in the UK and Ireland and Northern Ireland will know Mind, the charity, mental health service, lots of resources, and they do a lot in the community. That's their phone number. Obviously, you can see. I'm glad you put up the times, because a lot of people get confused about they think that these places are open all the time, and they're not. So Mind obviously is a charity, and that's their times there, 9 till 6. Rethink Mental Illness, that's another sort of, I think it's NHS based, and also to do with Mind as well. That's their phone number. So it's resources again, and I think they've got a helpline too. NHS Choices, obviously the free call. Everyone knows 111. I know you probably think, oh God, 111, they're a nightmare when you ring them. But please use that number, because they are trained to talk to people who are in distress. Calm is basically get my words out, sorry. Campaign Against Living Miserably is what that stands for. They're a great organisation and charity. Loads of resources on there for you to read through. And the crisis text line, it's actually otherwise known as Shout as well. If you don't want to ring and you feel that you can't ring someone and speak over the phone, if you send them a text just saying hello or whatever, they will text you back, and then you can start your conversation with them over the text. So another great service as well. And of course, a lot of us, we all know Samaritans. In fact, I think it's almost international now, isn't it? Samaritans. 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, even on Christmas Day. So please, if you need to talk to somebody and you're in distress, or you're just feeling lonely and just need to talk, give one of these organizations a call or a text, and they'll be able to help.
That's excellent.
I'm just going to say on top of that, Mind pretty much saved my life.
Good to hear.
I went through loads of, when I was going through everything I went through, before I got admitted for my mental health breakdown. If it hadn't been for Mind before and after, I don't know if I'd be here on this stream. I went through so many different organizations and everything, but the one where the penny dropped, and I felt that I was given respect in what I was saying, and people were listening, not just taking notes, but really wanted to know what the problem was. I cannot speak highly enough for Mind. I still donate to them every single month, and will do to the day I die. They literally saved my life. So if anyone has ever thought about getting in touch with Mind, obviously Tara's given some great resources, but I can't stress how amazing Mind are.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Brian. I just want to let everybody know as well, as well as the Canadian resources, they're in the description of this video. So if you didn't catch me saying that earlier on, you can go to this in the description of this video on YouTube, and all of these will be listed in case it's not up for long enough, or in case you missed it. I just want to thank Tara. What a great presentation, and really important for this channel and for this show. You did an amazing job. Really, really important stuff to talk about. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Tara, I have to say the love for Sean and Tara, and all right, we're not bringing comments up, but I'm looking at them and seeing them, and just the positivity being chatted. There's just people opening up in the chat as well, and speaking amongst each other. It's refreshing to see. It's fantastic to see that. Obviously, we address this and we talk about, see people being comfortable enough. Like Tara said, this community, and like Tara said, getting involved with Tottenham Hotspur, we were all involved with Tottenham Hotspur, but we've got involved in this YouTube community, which has done exactly that for me, exactly that for a host of people. It's a very, very special thing to be a part of.
Absolutely. And Tara, we thank you, and you're welcome to stay as long as you can. If you are exhausted, which you probably are, you feel free to hop out whenever. Brian and I are going to start discussing a little bit of our own experiences, and like I said, you're welcome to do what you'd like. And
we'll stick around.
Thank you again for sure. It was absolutely amazing to have you here. So, Brian, I'm going to turn it over to you now, brother.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I said I wanted to talk again because obviously on the very very first one, I did a big talk where I spoke in a lot of detail about how mental health, addiction, and a lot of other things grabbed hold of me. And then obviously it's a continuation from there. A lot of people like the one thing I've always said, and the one thing I stand for is, whenever you get to know me, as soon as we go to a pub for a drink, and someone says, "Do you want a drink?" I don't say no, thank you. I say no, I'm an alcoholic. I'm very very open with it, and it's not because I think I'm everyone in the world needs to know. It's because I refuse to not speak about it. When people ask me about mental health, I've lived it, been there, done it, and I refuse to go silent about it. It's something that, like I said, it saved my life. Counselling and psychiatrists and all the other things helped me turn my life around and get me here. So for the rest of my life, I will always be very, very open about speaking about mental health. And there's just a few things that I'm going to open up about now. And obviously, there's been a few things. After our last one on May the 4th, where are we now? 9 months. I've pretty much been living through depression every single. I haven't admitted it to myself. I haven't been able to find work, and when I have found work, it was working for a gambling company who told me I wouldn't be dealing. I'd be dealing on customer services and team leader and leading teams that had nothing to do with the gambling side of it. And then when I started, they told me I had to start working with addicts and listen to people who have said they've gambled all their money and it was too close to home. So that set me back. I fight depression every single day. And like people know, I love my life in Canada. In fact, I can't wait to get back to Canada for a rest. I need a holiday from this holiday, although this one wasn't a holiday for obvious reasons. My life in Canada is fantastic. I've got the most incredible, beautiful, supportive, wonderful wife that I am nothing without. And everything's good with me and her. It's fantastic. In fact, just her family compared to my family life is very, very, very different. Whereas my family are very, very close and very, very hands-on and get-togethers and everything. This family unit is, for no fault of my wife's or my mother-in-law's, but it's completely ripped apart, and the dynamics are very, very different. And I have a good relationship with my mother-in-law, but it's not the best. It's not the best, and sometimes I feel like a prisoner in my own home. I feel like a caged animal, and when things go wrong for me, I like to act on these things and try and sort them out so it doesn't become a big, huge thing. But what happens back home is it kind of gets swept under the carpet because they don't like confrontation. They don't like, and sometimes my wife doesn't get spoken to in the nicest way by some people within the family, and I lose my rag and my anger management struggles. I mean, sometimes I have to tell my wife to lock me in the bedroom and not let me out for half an hour, because if I get out, I will cause madness. And that's where my anger management started coming in. Anger management has become a huge thing for me. I've always had a very, very bad temper. I've had to have. Unfortunately, I spoke a lot about my relationship with my dad in the past when I was an alcoholic, and how the police have been called out on God knows how many occasions to this house to calm me down. But it's spiking again. It's spiking again. But the good thing is, I know when it's coming. And my wife, bless her, who is one of those that just wants to support me. How can I help? How can I help? How can I help? How can I help? That makes me worse. I'm kind of like, leave me alone for 2-3 hours, or leave me alone for whatever. That's helping me. And it started taking over. We've had issues with the landlord, and let's just say I've had a few words with him, and it's not gone very nicely. And again, I can feel it just bubbling on top. And again, it's the depression with not being able to find work. I haven't, to tell you the truth, I'm actually lying. I'm not going to lie in here. I have no desire. It's not no desire to find work. I have no energy. I'm totally drained. I'm nothing. Losing my job at booking.com, which was the job of my life and the job I loved, has ripped me to pieces. and trying to bounce back from that has been hard. And that's why I jump onto any tweet, any stream or anything, because this is my comfort zone. I am so zapped of energy, and I want to do so much for my wife, and give her that. My wife has been working through this whole pandemic non-stop, and literally she is supporting me. She's and I hate that. My wife deserves the best of whatever she wants, and I will get, but like I said, I just don't have the mental health, the mental strength. I'm getting so anxious. I'm so nervous. I sometimes I just don't want to get out of bed. I know a lot of people hear that. Thankfully, the addiction part hasn't come into this. It's been the anger management and the temper and the depression. And then obviously I had my time here when I was here for the first time, and then came back home. And then obviously I had to come back 4 or 5 weeks later because of Bob Spur and what happened to him. And people will know how close me and that man is, how we all are with him. But since get-go, the connection between me and him is something you only get once or twice in a lifetime. And luckily I have that in Canada with my co-host, Mr. Brian Ireland. And I've made very, very close connections with everyone in the UK, as well as Sean must have got annoyed with me for not saying Sean. He's gone. But
I think he's just stepped out for a minute. He's probably
okay. I'm joking anyway. So, but anyway, with Bob Spur, obviously, got to spend a lot of time with him. And then obviously, once his father passed away, and then he got COVID, and seeing him like that, and not being able to help, it absolutely destroyed me. And what was making it worse is obviously when I first moved to Canada on December the 1st, 2017, 10 days later, my grandma died. And I never got to say goodbye. I never, ever got to say goodbye. Obviously, I was at her funeral. I flew back immediately. But whereas the family got to say goodbye, I never did. And then obviously, when I said to Lana, I'm flying home, there's nothing, I can't. She was like, but you don't know what's happening. I was like, if anything happens to him, and I'm in Canada, I will go absolutely crazy. And she was like, Brian, I can see what's going on. Go home. You need to be with him. And then obviously, thankfully, it's a happy story when it comes to Bob Spur. I'll give a little update with him when I finish this part and go on to the next. No one will know from the updates that me, Kim and Tammy were giving out just how close he was to not being here. So just how close he was to not seeing his kids again. So just how close he was to the last time I saw him in person would be at an airport, or the last thing I would have heard from him was one of the most disturbing voice notes I've ever heard in my life, and just can't play again. And obviously that's knocked me for 6, but thankfully there's a happy ending with that. He's had his tracheotomy reversed. He's speaking. He's on another ward. He's out the COVID ward. He hasn't got COVID. So this is a huge thing for Bob. But like I said, what it's done to me mental health wise has been, and it's through no fault of Bobby. So if Bobby's watching that, he said he would. This is just me dealing with someone very, very, very close to me being that close to not being with us. But what's tied this all up? Obviously, actually, there's one more thing I want to talk about. The other thing that's been getting to me. People will know from the last one I had, unfortunately, with my wife, we had a miscarriage a couple of years ago, which ripped us apart. Or not, when I say ripped us apart, not as a couple, but obviously heartbroken, shattered, grief. I still live with that. And by the looks of things, I mean, we're going to have one last go at it, but it's not looking positive. And who knows, I might not. Hopefully we can adopt. But I might never get to be a father. My wife, my beautiful wife, won't be able to become a mother. And then I look at it, obviously I'm here with my 4 nephews and my 1 niece who are, apart from my wife, absolutely everything to me. And living apart from them is very, very hard, especially when you know you may not be able to have that yourself. So I have all of this going on. But what I think had been masking it for a long, long time, and I think what's really, really, really brought this out is obviously 2 weeks of hard protest. This is the only thing I'm going to be mentioning about Spurs, because it's saying about Spurs. I think the whole protests and the whole, yes, we had a turnout, yes, we got media attention, but again, it was, I kind of took it personally. I kind of took it so personally. And obviously, when you realise a few days later you're doing a stream like this, you realise that as much as I hate that bastard, he's nothing to me. The people that are watching this are something to me. This stream is something to me. And yeah, I think what's that actually happened is this has awoken me to realise that there's a lot more issues I need to get. I've had therapy twice already for my anger management this year, and it just needs to be said that obviously I think I need therapy again. I think I need it again. Thankfully, like when I say anger management, there's no, just so people are aware, there's no, I don't hit anyone or hurt anyone, and certainly not my wife. I wouldn't even lay a finger to her. I'd kill myself before I laid a finger on her. That's but what's happening, obviously, I'm realizing that there's a lot more issues that have literally I've seen open up since I've reflected on the protest. When I gave, I think I put, again, like I said, I put everything into these streams. I think that protest was something for me to put everything into, to avoid opening up and discussing what I'm discussing here. And it's a very, very hard time for me at the moment. So where I have been quiet, I will be back on the streams and everything soon. It's just come to that point right now where obviously streams like this, I will always hop on and give everything to. But all I will say is, in closing, is like I said to people, I will always be here to talk to people. People like what Sean does, people like Tara, what they do, have such a huge impact on people. And believe me, when you may think you don't need counselling, or when you think of counselling or psychiatric help, there's that whole stigma that was there in the 80s and 90s. And I can only tell you that honestly, if you go in there and you speak the truth, they can help you. If you go in there and tell them what you want to hear or what they want to hear, then you're going to get nowhere and sink further and further. Opening up and speaking the truth is probably the most important thing you could ever do, because it has changed my life. And like I said, I'm comfortable enough and man enough to admit that I need to go back into therapy live on a stream, because like I said at the beginning, I won't let things like this go unnoticed.
Brian, can I quickly interrupt you? I don't mean to be rude.
Yeah,
here,
of course you can.
But Tara has something she wants to add, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course.
Cheers, Tara.
Sorry, Brian. I was just listening to you talking, and also at the same time I was flicking through some of the comments, just some of the things people were mentioning in there, and just something I wanted to say, relating to obviously yourself, where you're talking with regards to mind and how it's helped you, and some of the other things like your anger management and so on. And some of the comments that I was looking at, there's been comments with regards to things like toxic relationships and not being able to get any help because somebody self-medicates with cannabis. There are, other than the helplines that everybody automatically thinks of, the ones we've given out, which people tend to turn to for someone to talk to, and in times of need, or you go to your GP, there are lots of other small organizations out there that will help you. They're more specific to your need. So don't automatically assume that they're the only people that you can turn to, the phone numbers that we've given you. There are lots of others as well. So you just sort of give them a Google, like there's Anxiety UK. They specifically deal with anxiety. There's organizations who deal with your mental health and understand that you may rely on self-medicating, and they can help you to kind of work through that without judgment. I also noticed that somebody had mentioned that they binge eat and then feel guilty about putting on weight and what have you, which I think is very much a It's not even just a thing specific to ladies. I think men can also go through that too. So there's, like I say, there's all, sorry, I can't think off the top of my head, but I'd be willing to kind of, find out if anybody wants to contact me. If you go through my website, I unfortunately can't give you our counselling because that's specific to those who are involved in the sport, but I can help put you in touch with some other organisations. So please feel free to drop me a message if you wish. You go through the website, there's a little WhatsApp button, and I will try to get back to you. Sort of, if specifically, it'll be during daytime hours.
Cheers, Tara. That's great. That's really good. Thank you.
Could I just add something there, Brian?
Please do, Sean. Yep.
Just from exactly what Tara was saying, but from more of a Canadian perspective, most Schedule 1 hospitals, so like Schedule 1 meaning they have a trauma center or emerge department, will have an outpatient mental health department. So this goes for anywhere across any province within the country, that there will most likely be a walk-in counseling available on certain days through the week. If you just call the main line of whatever your local hospital is, most likely they will have an outpatient department that can set you up for walk-in counseling for any concern that you may have about situational crisis that you're having in your life. Brian, so proud of you for sharing today, but anything like that if anybody's having thoughts of self-harm or suicide, most Schedule 1 facilities will have a outpatient mental health department that provides a walk-in counseling, maybe not every day, but more at least kind of on a weekly basis as well. So just whatever local hospital to you is, please reach out to them, and they will most likely get you the help that you need. And any CMHA office, Canadian Mental Health Association office within a community will also have that set up as well.
Yeah, sorry, just to quickly jump back into what's something as well.
Yep.
Sorry, this is being my age and having menopause, you get brain fog. So sorry, everybody. It was also the bit of the toxic relationships. When I talked earlier with regards to educating yourself, it's a word it's thrown around quite a lot these days, but I'm actually, on a serious note, going to ask you to read up on this. Read up on narcissism, okay? Educate yourself on narcissism and gaslighting and those toxic relationships. It's not just with a spouse or a loved one or a love interest. It can be in your workplace. It can be people that are meant to be friends and so on. That actually is a massive impact on mental health and creates depression and anxiety in people, and you don't see it coming. And it's normally after the relationship and the gaslighting and the ghosting and so on, that they've treated you for a long time. When you're on your own, you're now codependent, and that's where you really can suffer. And yeah, it can lead you into those dark times. So please read up on those things, and also Google some organizations who may be able to help. Okay, sorry, just that.
No, don't apologize, Tara. Thank you so much for adding to that. Really appreciate it. Brian, did you want to continue where you were?
No, yeah, I was just closing. I was just basically saying, listen, the help is out there now. I've already seen in the chat that people are thinking of therapy, and also they're talking about drug and alcohol addiction, which is obviously something I know full well about. And believe me, like I said, I've got the tattoo on me. I've got loads of tattoos on me, but one of them is when I went into rehab. And as I went into rehab for alcohol, they said, what we want you to do is come up with a quote that you want to live by, where you see yourself now and where you want to be in 5 years. And I said, never let a past nightmare stand in the way of a future dream. And I lived by that. And my nightmare was the alcohol. And I said goodbye to it. And although I've opened up with what I'm going through right now, and what I will work on, because I stand by working on it and I know it will work, I now live in the future dream. And my future dream is that obviously I'm alcohol free. I get to see my nephews and my niece. I speak to them on the phone when I'm in Canada or video calls. I have the most incredible wife that I fell in love with the first time I met her in Israel in 14 years ago in the middle of a hostel. I have a relationship with my parents right now. My dad is like a god to me because me and him couldn't be in the same room together. I have wonderful friends. I have my other best mate, Jerry Pizer, who is unfortunately an Arsenal fan, but it is so important to me, and we've been there for each other during that. But it's all because obviously I made changes which I had to make, and you've got to make them before they change you. So all I can say is if you're thinking about help and you want to get help, it is there. It may take time, but believe me, and it gets harder before it gets better, because obviously it's very, very emotional stuff. It's very, very powerful stuff, but the help is there. So don't hide. Just go and get it.
Great. That's excellent, Brian. I guess it's my turn.
Well, that would depend. I mean, do we have an update? Has Adam said he's got an update or anything on anything?
No, I think we're just short of it. We're at 467 at the moment, so we'll give it. If we can get to 5 guys, we'll get Adam back on and we'll do a quick update. But
all right. So then what close. I will do is you're going to switch place with me now. Obviously, people will know. Let me just tell you a bit about Brian Ireland before. You can stay there because you're the center of attention right now.
Oh gosh.
So do you know what? Talking to Brian Ireland, I'm going to thank you live on this stream for changing my life as well. Because without you, I'm being serious now, because obviously you found me because of Toronto Spurs and winning me on your other podcast, The North End. And then from that moment that we spoke, we've been inseparable, and we only met properly for the England-Scotland game. And ever since then, we spend a hell of a lot of time together, and you've been there to support me. And we've started this journey with the new channel, which has been wonderful. And I'm very, very proud of what you're about to do, because obviously I spoke on the first one because I was ready to, and and obviously you were hosting it, and the incredible job that you did. But now I'm very, very proud to be here when you get to talk. So I'm with you every step of the way.
Thanks, buddy.
And over to you, brother. So what are you gonna?
Well, I'm gonna thank you first, Brian, because like a lot of what I'm going to talk about here is inspired by you. You know, and you mentioned that you wouldn't be where you are today, and the same goes for you. Your relationship you had with drugs and alcohol, and your ability to sort of to deal with that and to manage that has inspired me to make some different decisions in my life. Just to let everybody know, I have been using alcohol as a means to push any kind of pain I've had in my life away for probably I don't know, since being an adult. It's something that runs in my family. My dad has been an alcoholic for his entire life that I've known him for. So for my entire life, I've used it as a crutch to sleep, to manage any sort of pain that I had. My mom passed away at a very young age. I think it was 22 when she passed. I had a son at a very young age at 23. He's now the same age as I was when I had him. And I've struggled. I've struggled with using alcohol a lot. Like I'm talking essentially 7 or 8 drinks a day for most days that I wasn't working the next day. Now, what's happened to me recently is the pandemic specifically I've lost 95% of my work. I work in live events. I'm an audio engineer. Those events don't exist anymore. So I've had to pivot to doing other things. I was in the process of doing that anyways, but what it has done is it's given me way too much free time. So I now, other than now that doing this channel, which has helped, we'll get to that. But I had so much free time that every single day was, instead of, I have to work tomorrow, I'm not going to buy any drinks, I would just buy drinks, and I would buy drinks, and I would buy drinks. And I was doing that every single day it's basically since the pandemic started. I'd have moments here and there where I'd work a little bit and it would curb itself to some extent. But that drinking leads, as most people know who have suffer from substance abuse of any kind, especially alcohol, I think it leads to bad decisions, whether it's bad decisions you make from a work perspective or doing other drugs or other substances that, your inability to make good decisions goes away. And I got to a pretty difficult place just before we were supposed to go to Colombia for a trip over New Year's. That got lost, and it just in my headspace, I was just not in a very good place. And it's been a massive struggle. And I thought, you know what, it's based on what Brian has been able to do and what he's inspired. I think not just me, but, you know, many people you'll see in the comments and many people that I've seen in the mental health group that we have in WhatsApp. His inspiration and his ability to motivate people and to get them to see and to understand, you know, what it is that he believes in, whether it's, you know, Spurs related, or in this case, something, you know, much more difficult to accept that you're going through. So I've been alcohol free now for 24 days today. I had my last drink of alcohol on the 10th of January. I think that's 24 days. Everything that goes along with that, I haven't touched either. So it has been a difficult 24 days, but I've had help. I have other friends who are going through the same thing and who have gone through the same thing. So I just wanted to share that with everybody. I come off. I think part of my persona on YouTube was, hey, that's the Brian guy who has a few too many ciders while he's on a stream and maybe gets a little too raucous and probably. I started to see that a lot as well and see myself and kind of realizing that that's not really the person that I want to be. This community, this channel, working with Brian, doing these things that I'm doing, and everybody else who we're going to get to hear from tonight, and of course meeting Tara and Sean. I just feel like I felt like it was time to make different decisions. I'm 47 years old, and I'm getting to the point where there's just no excuse for it anymore. I need to make different decisions. So I'm currently alcohol free. I don't know if that will remain forever. I think something to recognize when it comes to, you know, making these decisions. They do come in some sort of waves. Sometimes you do fall back off the wagon and then get back on again. That's normal. That's something I'm learning about. I've learned a lot in the past 24 days because I'm spending most of my time. I've got an app called Reframe. I recommend it. It's a great app. It's scientifically based. It helps you through day-to-day stuff. It teaches you how to manage your habits and how to do different things. So I recommend Reframe, and I want to thank you for listening to me, and good luck with your journey. And really, really just appreciate having this opportunity to say this. And again, thank you, Brian, for everything you do.
You're incredible, Brian. Just quick question: How are you feeling after 24 days? Like, you noticing the difference? How you feeling?
Massive difference. I think there's few things that stand out for me. Sleeping. I used to drink to sleep, or at least I thought that's what I was supposed to do. This is not true at all. So if you think alcohol is the thing that's helping you sleep, it's actually quite the opposite. It actually messes with your sleep completely. I for the last probably 15 to 20 days or so, because it didn't happen right away, I've slept like right through the night. I've gone to bed earlier. I used to stay up until 2 or 3 in the morning for the sake of it, probably to drink more. I go to bed at midnight to 1 at the latest now. My head is clear. I'm more motivated to work. I get up early in the morning and I start working right away. So it's just all the things, all the little things, all the little details that I thought alcohol was solving. I've realized that it isn't. It's actually quite the opposite. It was just a hindrance.
Well, do you know what? It's honestly, it's incredible to hear that you've gone. Was it 14 days?
24 days today.
24.
Yeah.
24 days today. My bad.
It's all good.
It's incredible. It's incredible. Like I said, each day just brings a new day, and every day you do it. Like you said, I can't go back. I know what you're saying. With me, I know what happens if I go back on. But the way you've shown me, like the story you told me with you giving up smoking, like you just said, right, that's it, done, bye, see you later, and did it. You should be very, very proud of yourself, and well done for sharing it within the group.
Thank you, man.
I think you should both be really proud of how far you've come. And it's one day at a time. All recovery.
It really is.
One day at a time.
It really is. I've discovered my, well, not newfound love for sugar or for candy, but it's one of the things that's helping me get through every day. Is if I have a craving or if I have a moment, I'll eat a bit of candy. That is like sort of common in this case. Is you're removing a lot of sugar from your diet. It's empty calories or empty sugar based calories. When you remove those, you end up trying to look for it in other places. But they say a little bit of candy is a lot better than a little bit of alcohol. So very happy about it.
That's it.
The two Brian sponsored by Haribo.
Yeah. It's a good one. Sorry, Sean, you wanted to add something?
No, I was just saying you should be very proud of yourself.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. Thank
24
you.
days, like,
Yeah, I did a cold turkey, which I think was probably not recommended. I mean, I know it's not recommended. I have done this before. I smoked cigarettes for 20 years, up until I was 30. what was it, 38, 39 when I quit. I smoked like a pack a day for most of my life, and then I quit smoking, and I haven't had a cigarette since. So I know it's in me. I know that I can do it. I know that I'm able to make those decisions. Having said that, from a health perspective, I don't recommend it. I do think that there are ways of cutting down and getting a better help. It's something that I did, and I arguably should have gotten help first. But I'm also on my way to getting therapy, which I also think is massive for anybody. Don't be afraid of it. Don't, I have been. It's something I put off, and my girlfriend will tell you, just go do it. Just go do it. And it's something that I think many people, the stigma that's there, prevents them from going to do it. I could do it myself, which is something that I've kind of continued to tell myself. But I've gotten to the point now where I'm actually going to, so I think having the clear mind, not drinking, has given me that opportunity to say, hey, you know what, I'm actually going to do this. It's not, it's not, there's nothing wrong with it. In fact, the opposite. Everything is right with it. Get therapy if you can. And like we've shared a ton of resources, and I will be using those myself.
Good.
Really good.
I just wanted to mention exactly as well in the comments, right? I mean, there's a lot of people that are being very open and honest about some of the challenges that they've had, and it's the stigma that creates the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can just talk about it and get it out and not be worried about what other people think, that's what's going to get us the help. Is because we can draw off those resources, and that, at the end of the day, this is a sense of community, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is us trying to support each other, but the stigma around mental health, it holds so many people back from actually reaching out to try and get that help. Mm-hmm. And no offense, Tara, but in my line of work, especially men just don't.
Yeah.
They don't.
I will agree.
They don't reach out.
It's a higher statistic. I think us ladies, I'm not going to say all ladies, because obviously everybody's different, but we have, historically, we meet up with girlfriends, we'll have a good chat, we'll have a good moan over a cup of tea and so on. But in terms of when it gets to like your mental health, where it's really, really starting to suffer, like it was in my case, no one had a clue. Not even my kids knew what had been going through my head. They only found out when I decided that I was setting up SAS, and I was like, oh, hang on a minute, the whole world's going to know my story, so my kids need to know it. So that was when I told them first, so that they knew. And they said they didn't know. There was no signs, nothing whatsoever. So
can I ask you something though, Tara?
And I'm not here to kind of go, oh, women as well as men or anything like that, because the statistic for men is way higher. But the sad thing is, women's starting to catch up. And this is why we've got to stop it. We've got to be open.
Yeah.
Something I've just noticed in the comments as well. Somebody said, "Drink is everywhere. So difficult to kick it out."
Yeah, it is. You don't realize it, do you?
And you know what? I'll tell you something.
So you're not doing it.
I was looking for. I've got like volunteers who help me out at Football for Wellbeing. They're coaches, football coaches, who volunteer their time to help us run the sessions. And I wanted to give them like a little Christmas present. Now, obviously, the go-to is a little bottle of wine and some chocolates and what have you. And then I had one of the volunteers doesn't drink. And I'm stood in the middle of Tesco's thinking, where am I going to get this person? I was literally walking round and round and round. And all their Christmas gifty things all centered around drink. And that really stood out to me, because I thought, because if you are someone who's trying to give up drink, or just someone who doesn't drink, and it is really hard. And I do think it's, I honestly take my hat off to anyone who's really managing to do this, and you really want to give yourselves a pat on the back if you're getting through.
Can I ask you a question, Tara?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So when you were saying that your kids were kind of oblivious to what you were going through at the time, given all the fabulous work that you've done since then, in starting kind of your own foundation in Sports Against Suicide, do you think that some of those invitations that you speak about, kind of people's actions when they're, thinking about suicide, their, the physical changes, their feelings, kind of the words that they have, do you think that information can help people understand a little bit more now and be a little bit more in tune to people
Yeah.
around them that might
Oh,
be
yeah.
suffering from those self-harm thoughts. Because I've noticed that in my own work, is that
Yeah.
I can see things that maybe, you know, people just I don't want to say layman, just don't understand, right?
I think once you understand it,
Yeah.
you automatically, so subconsciously, you tuned in. You
Yeah.
spot it. I've actually delivered some workshops and walked away from the workshops, got straight to the coach and said, such and such, how's things with that person? And they've gone, oh, well, funnily enough, you should say that. They're actually having a bit of a tough time at the moment. You almost tune in and you reckon there's certain like body language, there's just stuff there that you just suddenly sort of think. And I'm not going to say this is every single person. I don't want to come across like a, you know, a bit of a cliche type thing, you know, because at the end of the day, there are still going to be some people who will be going through all of this and you will not have a clue. They will not give off the signs because they're so clever at hiding it, you know. And it's like what you see, isn't it? You know, people, big smiles, the big happy person, you know, and people will see past that thinking that they're okay. And then you can have people who are the opposite. They are quite sad and melancholy looking, but don't assume that they are sad or there's something not, you know, but still ask, are you okay? I used to get accused of constantly saying, my God, what, smile, what's wrong with you? And I used to say, well, there's nothing wrong with me. What you on about? It's just the way I look. You know? But then I suppose when I was in the crisis, maybe people just thought that was how I was. I don't know. So it's just, don't make assumptions, always ask.
No assumptions at all.
Yeah. 100%.
And explore those invitations. Exactly. I mean, understand. And everyone knows their circle better than anybody else, right? And their friends and family. So, you know, somebody who is very outgoing and all of a sudden is withdrawn, right? Those kinds of things matter. That's when you want to ask, you know, is there anything I can do? Is there any, you know, can I help you through something? Because you seem off. You don't seem yourself, right? Yeah. So those types of things. Exactly. Don't be afraid to ask your friends when they're acting inconsistent from their personality, if there's anything that's wrong.
The other thing is, and I think you mentioned earlier with your, you know, where suicide comes about by situation. The other thing to constantly make sure you tune into straight away is if somebody tells you something like they've lost their job. Don't just put it down to, oh, never mind, mate, you'll get another job soon. That is what I would call a red flag. The situational things, so like losing a job, a relationship breakdown, loss of a loved one, you know, anything like that. Just because you may cope really well in times like that doesn't mean everybody will. So they're your little red flags to be looking out for.
Even if it's grief related too,
keep
right?
a check on those people. And I also think it's like, you know, we talk about this connectedness and it's about bringing people back. As a society, we need to get back to being, like they used to say, like, you know, it takes a village to raise a child sort of thing. And it's that mentality we need to get back to in society so that we're there for each other. We're there for our neighbours. You know, the internet and social media is great, but we're all disconnected. You might be on there with millions of friends chattering away, but we are disconnected as a society, and we need to get it back to where we're there for each other.
Yeah, just to add to that, Tara, I think it actually makes us more disconnected because it's a false connectivity because you're a keyboard warrior, you're talking and stuff. It's not the genuine sort of interaction you get when you spend time with somebody in real life.
You can have 2,000 friends on Facebook, and you may interact with them daily, and you think you know those people. But your friends are the people you see, the friends who talk to that you meet up with. Yeah. I've got lots of Facebook friends and some of them are great people. And I've had little chats on Messenger and no disrespect to them. They're great people, but you are not my friend. If you know what I'm saying, my friends, you are my, what did my grandmother used to call them? Your I can't think of the word now. Your something or other.
Well, Joni is Tara on that as well, and then we'll get Josh on because Josh is ready and raring to go. And big up to Josh for coming on. But you know what? I'm going to end what I'm about to say with a comment by Will Smith, and I do mean Will Smith as in the actor, which is my next tattoo. what I noticed when I was drinking and coking it up and going crazy and mixing about the wrong crowd, everyone wants to know you when you got money and you're buying drinks. Everyone wants to know you. And then once I started realizing that this issue is more than coke and alcohol and anger management, it was mental health. People start dropping you because they drop you because of the stigma, or oh my God, they don't want to know you, they don't want to know you. And then for years and years and years, I didn't hear from them. And I was like, okay, you keep me out of my life, or you keep me out of your life, fine, go your way. I wish you nothing but the best. But you obviously you find out who your friends are when the going gets tough, not when the going's good. And it's amazing over the last few years in my sobriety, where so many people that drop me have started messaging me on Facebook or social media. And, oh, Brian, how you doing? And it's really good to hear that you're doing so well. And they start a conversation. And then within about 10, 15 minutes, so I'm currently having a bit of problem with alcohol myself now. Can you give it? And I'm like, you dropped me. You dropped me. And the saying that I actually said was from Will Smith was, if you're absent during my struggle, don't expect to be present during my success. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like what you were saying with Facebook, Tara, with the friends that are always around you are just talking to you on there. But where are they when things need to, where you know who your friends that you can count on and talk about these things. So that quote from Will Smith always sticks by me. Always sticks up to, and I said I wasn't going to mention anyone in the comments, but I just want to say one, and I will mention this person. Big up to my brother who's lying in hospital right now watching it. Big up, Bob Spur. Love you to pieces, brother. Get well soon.
Cheers, buddy. Good to see you, mate.
Bob
So
Spur.
you're the only one coming
Only
up.
comments
on there.
going on screen today.
Very well, buddy.
Yeah, just it's great to see you, buddy.
Well.
I love you to
Get well
pieces.
soon.
And yeah, so
Right, I'm just
so
going to quickly interrupt here. I'm going to step out for a moment, and I'm going to let you bring on Josh. I'm going to use the facilities. I'll be in the background. Again, Tara, and Sean, if you guys need to go, you're free to leave when you need to. But I will be back momentarily. I'm just going to pop out, and Brian, I'm going to let you roll with things for a moment.
Yeah, no problem, brother. You do it, brother. Let's just bring in Josh, because Josh has been waiting patiently. And Josh, how are we doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, just a small disclaimer to anyone in the chat. If I start laughing about certain aspects, it's not me laughing at the issue. I use laughter as a coping mechanism. So don't take it personally. It's just me trying to come to terms with what I'm saying. And, this is a massive step for me coming out with what I'm about to say. So
Josh, obviously, thank you first of all for coming on, being part of it. You and me have got deep love for each other, and we met each other for the first time on Monday. Felt like I've known you for ages, and like I said, this is your time. You're all right to be zoomed in, or you want to be like this? Wherever you feel safe and more comfortable.
You can zoom in, man. You can zoom in. It's all good.
Okay, so I'll give you the mic, and whenever. Oh, let me just change you over. There you go. The camera is all yours, mate. If you need to break or stop at any time, like I said, everyone's here with you. Love and support, and it's all for you, buddy. So when you're ready.
Yeah. So I think my problems with mental health stem from childhood. I went all through school. Not from about year 5 onwards. So I actually moved schools in year 5. Moved to a different town, went to school in a different area, and joined a new school. And I didn't fit in. And as a consequence of that, being a new kid, I was picked on. I was bullied, just to see if people could push me to my temperament and find out more about me as a person. That went into secondary school. Was bullied all throughout secondary school, verbally, mentally, physically, you name it. It all happened to me. I started finding ways to cope with it. Cope with the pain that I was going through mentally. And although at the time it seemed like a release, I look back on it now and it was quite the opposite. It was more of a temporary fix than it was a permanent fix. I'm quite heavily into my rock music, more notably my heavy metal kind of stuff. And I used to go to a youth club. It was more like a youth night, under 16s night, at a place called Music Tech in Dagenham. And this night focused heavily around heavy metal music. And when you associate heavy metal music, mosh pits, it's a common thing now. people going to the mosh pit, start throwing each other about, and I went in there thinking, yeah, I've got a lot of energy built up. Let's just go in and try and release it. But now I look back on it, and my intention going into that was to purposely get hurt, just to try and numb the pain of what I was feeling. So I had a legitimate reason to feel like I was in pain rather than the mental side of things. I also, believe it or not, found another release in wrestling. So I started wrestling backyard, more notably, with a group of friends. And again, it was the intention was more to the point of getting hurt rather than it was, you can pull it up if you want, Brian. It was more to the point of I was trying to get hurt more than I was as a release. I've brought a picture, and so you can see this is the stuff I used to do. So this was me. This was towards the later my early adulthood rather than my childhood. But I mean, these are the most notable images that I've got. So I started doing this as a form of release, but again, it wasn't a release as such. It was more physical pain, and I'm suffering now because of that. I've got slip discs in my back, and I have back pain every morning. So it's and as part of that, I started taking pain medication. I've had back pain since the age of about 20, and I was taking it all the way through. And then, I mean, I had ups and downs of my mental health, and a really horrible period of time for me. And then I decided that I needed to knuckle down in life, and I needed to sort myself out. So, being the adult, I had a child very early on, and I decided that I needed to knuckle down and find a job. And I started doing odd bits here and there. I started working in a taxi rank, just odd bits and pieces, and I needed something more because I just didn't feel like I was fulfilling myself. And then I got given a chance in 2016, and sorry.
Take your time, brother.
I fucked it up, in essence. You can pull up the next picture I've just done there.
Okay.
I got accepted into the Metropolitan Police. And I was in the training period for the Met Police for 3 months. And as part of your training with your police officer, you have to do these things called KREs, which are basically knowledge tests. And there's 3 of them you have to do, and the pass mark is extremely high. And on the first one, I did absolutely fine. It was the second one that stumped me. I failed it the first time by 2 marks. I got given the chance to resit, and me being me, didn't do the due diligence, didn't do my research, and I failed again. This time by 1 mark. So I was left to either resign or basically get sacked. So to save my chances of potential re-employment by the police later on in life, I decided to resign. Little did I know after the fact that there was actually an opening in another training school that I could have transferred over to, but that was just a massive kick in the teeth for me. And yeah, that sort of messed it up for me. And that's when I started drinking rather heavily. Didn't really have a purpose. Instead of, going out and getting the support financially that I was entitled to in the form of job seekers allowance and unemployment benefits, I focused heavily on just pushing myself and trying to find a job rather than relying on handouts at the time. And I ended up in quite a significant amount of debt, faced eviction from my house, and ultimately let my children down. And that's how I felt at the time. I genuinely let my children down, because there's me, 2017, going through court cases with the local council who were trying to evict me at the time. Didn't know whether I was going to have a house, a roof over my head afterwards. And because I was pushing myself so much, and ultimately I was just wearing myself down. And gradually, more and more, as every day went on, I started to notice I was drinking more heavily, smoking more heavily. And then, I had a breakdown, got counselling, and got myself back on track at that time. And then I had a relationship meltdown in the middle of, my relationship broke down in 2018. A partner that I was with since I was 16, and I think I was 26 at the time. No, I was younger than that. I can't remember. 2018. That's when I know it was. My relationship broke down, and that hit me hard. That really did, and I started drinking more. Got into another relationship pretty quickly, and the person I was seeing, I didn't know at the time, but she was a regular user of cocaine. I knew that she used to go out every weekend with her, with her friends and stuff, but I didn't know to the extent that she was using cocaine rather near enough every day when I wasn't there. So I'm just trying to find the words to say.
Just take your time, my man.
It's all a bit hazy to me in a minute, but I can. Again, the drinking become more significant, and then I started to become more reliant on pain medication. And it wasn't a case of I was using pain medication to cure the pain. It was more a case of I was using pain medication to cure the mental state that I was in. Because codeine is one of the most addictive forms of pain medication that there are, and they are legal. So anyone that's using codeine, please be aware that, it can be vicious. And if you feel yourself at any time becoming addicted, seek help, because it's not the road you want to go down. December the 18th, 2019, and I remember the date very well. I tried to kill myself. Antidepressants, pain medication, alcohol. I remember leaving the house, going and sitting on a bench in the park, and the next thing I know, I wake up and I'm in hospital having my stomach pumped. And I don't remember anything in between. And I remember coming out of hospital, feeling really tender, really sore, swearing to myself that I would never do anything like that again. And I can happily say that since that day, I have not touched codeine in any way, shape, or form.
Well done, brother.
I stopped drinking completely. I went completely sober. Again, I've recently started drinking, but I now know my limits to the point of if I know that I'm having too much, I'll take a step back, because that's what I've learned to do. Something I've taught myself to do is when things are getting too much, instead of pushing myself, take a step back and recuperate. And then, everything was fine. I had ups and downs, and everyone knows how stressful moving house is. If you've moved house, you know how stressful it is. Moving from a brand new two-bedroom house, I moved in with my girlfriend up in Cambridgeshire. I'm moving out of a brand new 3-year-old new build 2-bed house, massive, into a little 2-bedroom flat. And you can just imagine trying to move all your lifelong possessions from a 2-bedroom house to a 2-bedroom flat. It doesn't really work out, and some of the things I had to get rid of along the way. But that in itself was very, very stressful. And then we welcomed my daughter into the world on the 3rd of May last year. Found out again recently that we're expecting again, so that's another thing that I'm looking forward to. But more to the point, last year, well, everyone that knows me, that I've been on the YouTube scene only for a few months, say 6 months, give or take. Back in November, my daughter, in the spite of a lockdown, when COVID was rife, and everyone knows that COVID is a respiratory disease or a respiratory viral illness that can severely mess your life up. my daughter went into hospital with a very, very severe case of bronchiolitis, and she was in paediatric independent care unit for a little over a week, and just not knowing at any time what the condition was, whether she was going to get any better, whether she was getting any worse, because she was in a vegetative state, put to sleep with tubes down her throat. I do not wish that upon anyone. I do not wish anyone seeing their loved ones, even in hospital, let alone in a hospital bed with tubes down their throat, being forced to sleep, because it is nerve-wracking and it is horrible, and it really, really messes with your mental health. And then, obviously, when she come out of hospital, and I started to be extra cautious, I refused to leave the house because I didn't want to bring COVID home. Because although this wasn't a COVID case, if I brought COVID home and it got to her lungs, then imagine the pain that I'd go through then. And I got COVID, ironically, on Boxing Day. I tested positive for COVID. Tried to distance myself from my daughter and my missus and my two kids who were over for Christmas at the time. And she caught COVID about a week later. And again, the feelings that I had of her being in the hospital all come back. Luckily, it amounted to nothing because she was perfectly fine throughout, and she's made a full recovery, as is my partner, as is myself, and my two older children haven't had COVID yet, although their mothers just tested positive for it. So very bittersweet in the sense of although everyone's okay, it's a case of the light's still a little bit further than the tunnel. If there's one thing that I can take away from all of this, I'm going to use a quote that a British journalist called Johan Hari once said on a TED talk, and he said, "Everything you know about addiction is wrong. The opposite of addiction isn't sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection. And if it wasn't for my partner who, got involved in my life at that precise moment in time when she interjected herself, I wouldn't be here today. Because she's helped me through some really, really tough times. That's pretty much it for me, really. I've learned, I've got some more, healthier hobbies now. I've started, being very arts and crafts. I'm heavily into my arts and crafts, heavily into my football, heavily into, YouTube content. And just just being a general nuisance on Twitter. Like I hate saying it, but I thrive off winding people up. It's all banter, but it's no. I mean, for me, I've finally found myself again, and if it wasn't for the community that I've got myself involved with, within the Tottenham YouTube scene, and obviously the relationship I have with my partner, it would still be a long way off, but I can finally see the light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not that far away. And although it's always going to be with me for the rest of my life, I'm hoping that at some point down the line, I can sit there and say, I haven't cried today. I haven't had a mental breakdown this month. I haven't felt I haven't had a down day in a couple of weeks. I'm hoping I can get to that stage, but it's a long way off of that yet. So, and it goes without saying, mental health is a killer. It is an absolute killer, and I don't wish it upon anyone. Again, if anybody out there is having trouble coping with their mental health, don't suffer in silence, please, because the worst thing you can do is not speak about it. Believe it or not, it becomes a lot easier once you admit to yourself and admit to other people that there is a problem. Because the only thing you're going to do is beat yourself up, and no one deserves to go through that pain, ever. So that's me.
Well said, Josh. Well said, mate.
It's amazing. Thanks for sharing.
I'll let wait, Brian, can you put it on the proper one? I don't know what I've just done. There you go. Thank you.
Oh, good, mate.
I'm not touching anything. I mean, I'll let Tara and Sean speak first. So Tara, do you got anything you want to say?
Wow.
Yeah.
Josh,
Wow.
honestly, you have come so far. We could look at your story as, a really traumatic time that you've had. Yeah. And it has been for you. But let's just take from that story the positives of where you are now. Right?
Exactly.
Where you are now, it's a journey. It's one day at a time, and you're on that journey. And the one thing I did want to say to you, where just at the end there, you were saying, you know, I want to get to a day where I haven't cried and I haven't had a breakdown and what have you. Get comfortable with having a good old sob and a good cry. Yeah. Don't ever say to yourself, I want to get to a point where I never want to cry. Yeah. This is the bit that you want to get past. Is not being able to feel like, do you know what, I want to have a good old bubble. Believe me, I do it all the time.
Yeah.
And I know it's harder for guys, like you guys, you do hold these sorts of emotions back, but I think just get comfortable with your emotions. Start to understand those emotions that you're having and think, because when you do understand them, you go, I'm feeling like that because of this.
Yeah.
So now I know what to do in this situation. Do you kind of get what I mean? So that's the sort of things you need to be working on. But I'm not I'm not some psychologist or a counselor or anything. It's just stuff I've known and got to know over time.
Yeah.
But, you know, at the end of the day, give yourself a bloody pat on the back, mate. You're here. You're doing great. You've got a family. You've got a home. You know. And
I'm doing all right for myself now.
Great.
I'm doing all right for myself.
You are.
And Josh, you got us anytime, mate. Anytime.
I know, 100%.
Anytime. Absolutely amazing, Josh,
Thanks for that.
what you just shared.
Cheers,
No
brother.
worries. Thanks for giving me the platform to share that. Thanks for giving me the platform to share it. Like it's a subject that needs to be spoken about, because if it doesn't, then you know it's never going to get the attention it deserves. And although that there is some significant attention around it, there's not enough.
No.
There's never going to be enough. There's never going to be enough attention that's put towards mental health, because it develops more and more over time.
Well, you know what, Josh, and you added something as well, and there's a thing you got to remember as well, which you said, and I said it as well, but I didn't say it as well as you did. We forget what suffering with addiction and mental health does for the partners.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like my wife, when I came close to falling off the wagon in Toronto, which was the first time like in 10 years where I was like, I'm literally, I had a drink like this, and I was shaking. I was like literally this close. My wife went and found out a course saying how to live with an addict, how to deal with, which was not only getting support for how to deal with me, but support for herself, because you forget what it's like for the partner or the father, the mother, the son, the daughter, or
They
the
sacrifice
friend.
themselves, arguably, for that
Exactly.
other person, right?
And I said, I've spoken to Tasha on your streams before. I just never. Well, we'll meet her before we go. We're definitely going to make sure of that.
Yeah.
It's incredible when we find someone like that is there to support you. I mean, Tara was talking about before about people being in toxic relationships, and saw it in the comments. And we got to remember that there are people out there that will do everything in their power to find out how they can support you, whether it's getting support from themselves or learning what you're going through. And Tasha deserves a lot of credit as well on it. But Josh,
100%.
what you've just done, mate. I mean, we did the last show and we didn't bring guests on, but this time we got to that level where we thought we had, and I'm so proud of you, brother.
It's amazing, Josh.
Yeah, absolutely
Amazing.
brilliant, mate. Absolutely brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cheers.
Thank you very much.
Josh, we're gonna move to quickly give an update on it. But again, thank you so much. And you know, whenever we do one of these shows, we want you to come back on and just
No worries,
speak
man.
your truth, brother, because it was fantastic.
Cool.
Really,
Thank you
well
very
And
much.
Josh, you know you've got my number, and even when I'm in Canada, we spoke at
Yeah.
stupid o'clock in the morning or stupid o'clock in the morning for you, and whatever time. Our phones are always open.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, Josh.
Brother,
Thanks,
you're a
Josh.
superstar.
All
Wow.
right, yep.
So-
We got Adam on here. Adam, go.
Oh, things. Yeah, just first of all, like, you know, fair play to Josh, like, and fair play to everyone here who's had their say, and also to everyone in the comments showing Josh some love as well. I mean, he deserves it after that, like, I mean, like, sharing some of the things he did, like, not many people have that at level of courage, so, like, you know, big up to him. Also, came on for an announcement, and it's a very special one. Some of you may already know at the beginning of this, I said I'd pop on whenever we hit a milestone, and we most certainly have, thanks to you. See this? We just passed 500 Canadian dollars or so.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Shout out to all of you.
appreciate
Big
that.
up.
Really
was
It
fantastic.
really is brilliant. It really is brilliant to see things like this happening. It's incredible. So thank you.
Thank you so
it's
much,
actually
everybody.
gone up because last time I saw it was actually at 517. So like, I mean, it's rising, lads.
Yeah, fantastic. We appreciate the support, and if you can't donate, that's also not
Yeah.
it's not an issue. It's not about the money. It's about that. It's about what Josh just did, and having these conversations openly and in a forum that everybody can,
Yeah.
speak their own truth and understand where they're at in the situation. So we appreciate
I wish
everything.
I had, that
either
level of
way.
bravery, but unfortunately I don't. But like, it just is what it is. Like, thankfully Josh does have that level of bravery, and these things help. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. All right, cheers, Adam. We've got
so
Chris.
I will log
Chris-
and leave you one last time.
Yeah,
And
hopefully you'll be back soon. Ed.
Yeah, hopefully you'll be back with a
very,
bigger
very
update.
soon.
Yeah, we'll
Big
keep you in mind.
once more.
Cheers,
And also
buddy.
welcome Chris as well. Now if I can just
All right, I'm gonna bring on Chris. Hello, Chris.
How are we doing, Chris, buddy?
How you doing, guys?
Hi, Chris.
All good, all good. So, Chris, before we obviously get to speak, we just want to make sure we're going to ask everyone when they come on if they want to be on the Zoom kind of thing we're doing, or they're more comfortable like this, because obviously we're going to do whatever makes people feel comfortable. But first of all, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. First things first, to both of you, Brian, it's amazing this stream that you're doing. It's very important. You should be so proud of yourself for doing this and raising awareness and raising money and everything. And then to all four of you guys, Josh before, everyone else who's coming on, everyone in the chat, you should be so proud of yourself for coming on to essentially a live stream that's going out to people on YouTube and then talking about your struggles and everything that you're talking about and what you need to do. You should be so proud of yourself, everybody.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
So we shall hand over to you, Chris. But do you want to stay like this, or do you want to be zoomed in on?
Yeah, I'll just stay like this.
Okay, that's cool. The mic is yours, mate.
Oh, I've upset Brian. He's gone.
No, he's going out while people. He's not. You haven't upset him. He's there.
No. I just think it'll with 4 people on the screen, it'll look nicer, and I'm going to be listening the whole time. So I'm still here, mate. Looking forward to the chat.
Yeah. So the first thing I'll say is that I've been close to depression, I think, but not actually depression. And in terms of suicidal thoughts, I've been nowhere near that. But I wanted to come on here just because I think Sean said it earlier that there's a stigma with mental health and everything like that. And talking to friends and family, I can't speak for everybody, but speaking of friends and family, I know a lot of them think that mental health issues are just suicidal thoughts or severe depression and the severe things that you think about. But from my side, anxiety, like everyone's had mental health issues, because if you've ever been anxious or worried about something, that's a mental health issue. It's just obviously nowhere near as severe. But if you don't treat it, or it carries on and gets more and more and more, then it can lead to those most severe things. But yeah, in my kind of experience, I don't think I realised at the time there were mental health issues. It's only now looking back that I think, yeah, they were. But it all came from relationships and things like that. So that's basically my story. So growing up, late teens, early 20s, I was a very late bloomer. I was a virgin until 33. So I got teased by friends who were sleeping with girls and meeting girls and everything like that. And then, you see American Pie films where that's all that it's about. And then you begin to think that that's the most important thing in life. And that's the measure of being a man, which being a man is how you, and a woman is how you treat people, not by what you do or don't do. But yeah, so I got teased for that and was going on dates. They weren't working out. I think I took it personally. If it didn't work out, it was, it must be something I was doing. Whereas a lot of the time it was a girl saying, yeah, let's go out again. And then as soon as they get in the car, it's like, oh, thank God I don't have to go out again. I can just ignore him. So I think I took it personally. But then, so it came to a point that this was when I was younger. So I was going out most weekends, having a few drinks. And then what would happen is I'd get kind of angry. I wouldn't hit anybody or anything like that, but I'd maybe throw punches that were nowhere near going to hit and shout at friends, get aggressive and all things like that. And at the time, because you're growing up, you're young, and you think, well, that's because you're growing up. You don't really know who you are. You're drinking too much. You're drinking too much of heavy stuff. It's only now I realise it was nothing to do with the drink. I could have drunk nothing and I'd have still got angry because it was all stuff in my head that I was worried about or angry about or what have you. And then it got to a point that one of my friends, he knows who he is, so I don't need to mention his name, but he kind of sat me down in a pub and went, there's something wrong here. What's wrong? Talk to me. And then I basically said the tea's in it. It's not helping. It's awful. It's making me feel terrible. And then the next day, he gathered all my friends round, sat down. They all apologised, and it was never ever mentioned again. So I guess that the point of that message, and I don't class it as bullying because I never told them until that moment. And I class bullying as if you do something to upset someone, they tell you it's upset them, and then you carry on when you know it's upsetting them. That's bullying. Whereas I could send Brian a message, the tone, because you can't put the tone in a message, could upset him. Anyone could upset someone accidentally. It's then how you deal with it. So if the Brian then says, "Oh, that's upset me," I just don't do it again. If I do it again and again and again, that's bullying. Well, in my book anyway. But anyway, yeah, the friends all apologised and it stopped. So you don't know who your real friends are until you need to know who your real friends are, I think. And if any one of those are carried on, then it's like possibly not my real a true friend. So there's no point talking to you and just cut you out. But yeah, they all stopped and then went on some more dates. The same kind of things happened, and then yeah, it was still in my head. It was still in my head, but I didn't have the pressure of friends and everything like that, and people talking about it. It was just me talking about it, and yeah, and then flash forward a few years, I ended up having a first kind of meaningful relationship, and then that ended out of the blue. She kind of ended it, and then that's kind of where I really went downhill a little bit. And it didn't help that Afterlife season 1 came out a week after, so I can't remember a thing of that because I cried all the way through because it was too close to home and too raw at that point. And then yeah, like someone's mentioned on here, I can't remember. I've been watching from the start, but yeah, someone put on the chat self-esteem there, and it's exactly what it was. And yeah, someone said on here, and I can't remember. I've lost my train of thought now. Let me think. Yeah. You still put a smile on your face. You still put a brave face on, and no one really knows about it. Friends knew about it, but it was kind of just. We know he's upset. We won't say anything to try and trigger anything, and we'll just treat him as normal. And then, but yeah, get home, and then for a week I was crying each night and things like that. And then I think that's the closest I've ever come to depression. I don't think it was depression, but it could very well have been. I then went to therapy because I was what I've always found, and I get a lot of people won't have the same, is I find talking about it really cathartic, and kind of when you start talking, I think you said, Ryan, that you got to speak the truth. I think that was yourself who said that.
Yep.
When I start speaking the truth, it then all comes out. And I went to a couple of therapists. One of them was the kind that you see in films where it's, what do you want to talk about? And I didn't want to talk about any of this, so that didn't work for me at all. But when it was another therapist who would start the conversation, instigate the conversation, and then I would just answer the questions, I found that a lot easier. And that really helped. And then one of my friends was similar to the therapist in the fact that he spoke to me like he was impartial, whereas your friends and family are always going to, say, it's nothing wrong with you, you're great, and blah, 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 blah. They're going to try and back you up, whereas I don't think that's what I needed. Well, I know that's not what I needed. And so what I needed was someone kind of impartial and looking at it from impartial. And this was another friend, he knows who he is as well, and he was superb. And the therapist as well, speaking impartially, no judgment or anything like that. And it was just able to get stuff off my chest. And then, and I've lost my train of thought again. Hang on.
Take your time, buddy.
So that went on for a little while. And in a way, the pandemic, I got put on furlough. The pandemic has been a kind of blessing for me because I got put on furlough. So I kind of looked at, well, I've got 4 months here to do absolutely nothing. I can't go out. So I either sit here and wallow or I be constructive. So I got into shape. I went for walks. I learned guitar. I learned some magic tricks and had a routine of what I was doing. And that kind of, not a new lease of life, but it gave a different perspective.
Yeah.
And then luckily in August that year, I met who is my now girlfriend, the best girlfriend in the world, bar none. I know, Brian, you said your wife's the best, but she's second, I'm afraid.
Yeah, this is another debate for another show, which I win.
And she's been superb. She knew everything that I've just said and all that stuff. She was superb, not rushing and anything like that. So honestly, she's the best. And and I'm in such a much better place now, but I wasn't anywhere near the levels that other people have been or have talked about or possibly will talk about. But I just wanted to raise the point that it doesn't mean just because you're not suicidal, it doesn't mean you haven't got mental health issues. You need to talk about them, because it can be even something like, oh, I've forgotten my shopping. What am I going to do for shopping tomorrow? That can then spiral and spiral and spiral, and then all of a sudden you're worrying about absolutely everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
But and what I've realised now as well, I still have lapses in the sense where I'll send something to someone has a moan or something, or like I said, where you send a message back and the tone doesn't read how it is, and then I'll worry that I've upset someone, but I'll then apologise and then that's done. So what I've realised now is that there's only one person in the world who their opinion of you matters, and that's yourself. Because the people who are worth giving a crap about will back you up regardless. I mean, obviously, if you go and do something terrible, then they're not. But then you would, in your own mind, be feeling terrible about that anyway. So if you do something that's upset someone and you apologise, you don't have to worry about what those people think of you, because they'll say, well, he's apologised, he's a good person, we accept his apology. That the people who then try and make you feel guilty about it, they're not worth bothering about at all. Which that isn't like a click of the fingers and that suddenly happened. And it's been about since his story, since early like late teens that's come about. But
Brilliant.
That's my story there. But it's not anything like Josh's story. Was so brave and big props to him, and so proud of him for coming out and sharing that. But everyone's got their own story, and it affects people in different ways. And
exactly,
like I said, with a shopping list and someone worrying, if I said to 10 people, oh, I'm worried, I forgot my shopping, I don't know what I'm going to do for dinner, you'll get a lot of people going, well, just get something else, who cares? But what's not important to one person could be important to someone else, and what does worry one person may not worry someone else. So it's similar to like what Tara was saying with the slides and the actions to take. You don't know what someone else is going through, and I know how you feel. You don't know how you feel because they're losing their shopping list. Could be the 100th thing that's happened that day, and that's just something else to add on top. So, it's just again, and you don't know what someone's going through. Something minor can be something big, and just because you're not feeling suicidal or severely depressed or anything like, or severely addicted to anything, doesn't mean you haven't got mental health issues. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't talk about it. And talking about it is, certainly for me anyway, was the best thing I did. It got it off my chest, because you end up having stuff in your head. You feel like a weight's on your shoulder. Getting it off your chest, you feel not free, but a lot freer, and the burden there is severely diminished.
Yeah.
Brilliant, Chris.
Cheers, Chris.
Well done.
Thank you for that, man.
Well done.
Yeah,
It's
fantastic.
mental health is personal, Chris.
Yeah.
I
don't think at the time I realised this is a mental health issue. I think I just thought that's the way it is. And Brian knows from on Spurs streams that I try and be positive about everything. So I've always had the kind of outlook. It will always work out the best. I'm a big believer in karma. And as it turned out, karma has sorted itself out. And with Josh as well, who was speaking earlier, and Brian and Brian and Tara, yourself, and I'm sure everyone else who's going to come on here as well. But you have that positive attitude, and these things that hit you, and it comes up. But I've got a poster on my wall which I read. I read before I play football each week. We haven't won yet, but it doesn't mean. But it's from the fourth Rocky film. It's not how hard you hit; it's how hard you can get hit. How hard you can get hit. How hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you take and keep moving forward. Yeah. That's how it is done. So obviously I've butchered that. I've messed it up a little bit, but the message is there that it's you've got to try and keep positive, but obviously that's very difficult in different circumstances and different people and different people will have different ways of dealing with that. And from my point of view, I've always tried to be positive, and that I brought that during the furlough, which really helped as well.
Yeah.
I've always tried to be positive. Down, and then suddenly that positive can just go away. But it's something I always try and keep that positive.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to say, Chris, I totally relate to the anxiety. I suffer with anxiety. Hence why you're looking at a photograph of me rather than me, because I get really nervous on camera, which is not great when I have to do this all the time.
But being on here was a huge step, so you should still feel proud of yourself. Super proud.
That's right, Tara.
It's taken me, in terms of if I go out and I deliver my workshop, standing face to face in front of people is not an issue. There's just something about being on these live Zooms and cameras and stuff like that just I don't feel good about, and I know it's related to my own self-worth, because that's our self-esteem, what we were talking about. And I think I was severely bullied as a child as well, among other things happening in my life, and it does eventually have a massive impact on you, how you see yourself and so on. It doesn't matter how many people say that I'm a lovely person, or they might think I'm pretty or whatever. I do not see that. And my self-worth in terms of confidence would be like peaks and flows, sort of thing, peaks and troughs. So I totally understand. Listening to you, I totally understand, where you're coming from.
Can I just make a comment, actually?
Yeah, sure.
Just in regards to, we have two, very different men who have two very different stories, who have been very brave to kind of come forward and share them in Chris and Josh.
Yeah.
Amazing. But we have two constants within those stories, is that they've both come out the other side. They've both connected with people who they love, who show them the support that they need, and both say that they've found a therapeutic effect from talking about coming on here and talking about what's been going on for them. So even though they're very different stories, very different men having gone through very different things, there are certain constants about mental health and getting better and coming out the other side that are there for everyone. And one is that connectivity, and two is that ability to understand that, yes, there's a therapeutic effect you can receive from sharing that story and having empathetic people listen to what's going on for you and trying to reach out. And you don't have to be a mental health professional to give somebody help in whatever they're struggling with. I think one of the things I've learned about suicide, and Tara, you might understand this as well, it's not necessarily that people want to end their lives. Oh, no. They want to end the unbearable mental stress and physical and emotional pain that they're going through. It's not about wanting to die. It's about wanting to end that emotional stress. And when you have that connectivity between, when you have that person that you love who is everything to you, who can be there for you, it's your chances of a positive outcome are so much better. And that therapeutic effect from sharing stories is constant, no matter what it is that you're going through. And I myself, I think I mentioned this on May the 4th. I have some social anxiety too. Honestly, I put the camera on just to test myself, I think, because I have some self-worth issues as well. And I don't know, it's therapeutic to kind of just put myself out there sometimes, as difficult as it is. But I just wanted to kind of share that comment about how two very different men, but having gone through certain things are constants with getting wellness through your mental health journey.
100%, Sean, and thank you again, Chris. Really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for inviting me on. And
I mean, Chris, I'll say one thing. Just like the poster you have, I have a tattoo. I mean, Brian said I've got tattoos everywhere, but one of the people I grew up doing learning about school, a great man that I read up was Nelson Mandela. And I was once getting on the TTC, which is like our London Underground back in Toronto. And there was a Nelson Mandela exhibit being done. I can't remember where, this was a couple of years ago, but all over the subway stations, underground stations. Sorry, I've got to go. I can't slip back into Canadian English. I need to speak English. Underground stations. They had the quotes of Nelson Mandela, and I found the one that pretty much sums up what you had with the boxing one, which was the greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. And that is right there on my back. Those inspirational quotes, just posting them somewhere can really, really help people as well, is what I find. But yeah, Chris, thank you so much for coming on, buddy.
No problem.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks so much for inviting me on, and thanks so much for doing this. It's a huge thing that you're doing, and please everybody donate, because it's something that needs to be donated to and needs to be helped. And
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, man. Really appreciate it. Fantastic.
And
Well done.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank
Well
you.
done.
what I will say, Brian, because I can see Brad Matthews is there, my good friend Brad Matthews, can you put me in the back of this? So I'm going to be listening, but I need to go to the bathroom and I need to get a drink. So I was going to pop away for 2 seconds and then I'll be straight back.
All right. Off he goes. And then I'm going to bring in Brad. How are you, Brad? Good to see you, mate.
Hi, I'm good. I'm always better towards the end of the week, getting towards Friday. And
It does help, doesn't it? Yeah, there's a little bit of something to look forward to for sure.
it's part of my story, really. But yeah, I sort of feel a little bit fraudulent for being on here after hearing all these stories. I mean, Josh was, wow, that's just heartbreaking, and Brian and it sort of it puts it all in perspective. But I guess the other reason I'm here is to say that you don't have to have incredible traumatic things in your life to get depressed.
Yeah.
And my childhood was wonderful. I had really loving parents. I was an only child, so I tended to have my own little fantasy world, my own little fantasy football, whatever it was, which I probably still have today. I still believe I'm going out on stage headlining Glastonbury, all this sort of stuff. So, but yeah, I've had ups and downs during my life with things. I got heavily into debt, and then I got made redundant, but I got a pout, so that got me out of debt. Then I re-immigrated to England. I was living in Australia, came back to England. I got into debt again, and that was about 40 grand in debt. And the most horrible thing about that was actually ringing up my parents and telling them about it, because I just couldn't do it. And I eventually did. They were great. I got onto a debt line, managed to go onto an IVA. 5 years later, I was out of that debt and I was feeling great again. And during that time, I used to think I was going to win the lottery. I really believed I was going to win the lottery. And I used to get up on a Saturday morning, because we have a Friday night lottery in England, Euro Millions. And I used to get up in the morning, look at the results, obviously hadn't won, and I'd get all upset and crying, oh, this is terrible. And yet the following Saturday, I'm going to win. And when I got my debts paid off, I suddenly thought, well, that was really stupid to think that way. Why were you thinking that way? So I was okay. And then I put on a lot of weight, and then I got diagnosed with type 2 diabetes and sleep apnea. So I had to wear a mask and go to sleep at night, and stop doing all the things I love, like having a drink, having chocolate, or whatever it might be. And I got through that as well. So I was sort of up and down, up and down, up and down. And then of course COVID hit, and suddenly we're in isolation. And yeah, suddenly it's you're stuck at home watching TV. I was lucky that my job actually was very, very good, and sort of looked after us working from home. But I started getting really, really emotional. I mean, people that know me from these streams, they see me. And if you ever met me in real life, I'm like I am on the streams. I'm sort of, hey, how's it going? Yeah, brilliant. But I was getting really, really emotional watching stuff where there's loads of people, like festivals, and they're all there having a great time. And I remember we had someone had to pick a song. It was on Facebook, pick a song with begin with B, and I think I picked Blue Sky, Mr. Blue Sky. And I watched the clip, and I was in tears. You're thinking, because it's like lockdown had just sort of started happening. And we got through that, and then I was okay. And then last year, I'll tell you, back when I was in my 30s, I used to drink, and I used to get offended. I used to think that people were ignoring me, and I'd just walk out of places I was in, and I would do things like I went all up Kingsway in central London, and there were these barriers where they're doing robots. So I'm knocking them all down as I'm walking up the road. And I used to do things like that, never against people, but I used to take my anger out on stuff, and that. I got over that, went away. I had some counselling. Yeah, that's fine. And then last year, we went to some leaving drinks. This back about September, and I'd really waited all day to see someone I really like at work, and they were talking to someone else, and I wanted to talk to them, and I suddenly got, oh, they don't want to talk to me. Everyone's ignoring me, and I did it again, and I left. I went home, and I got back to where I live in Ealing. And then there's all these messages. Well, are you okay? You okay? And I sort of said, oh, yeah, really, really sorry about that. Found out some other friends in a bar who were watching the band. Saw that? Yeah, had a good time. Got home and just burst into tears. And it was, I've been single now for, well, actually a long time, but I've been living alone for 20 odd years now. And it's so lovely to hear people that have got partners and that look after, that are there for them. I've got no one, and I think in those sort of times when I sort of had these moments, that's the worst thing, where you sit there and you just lose it, and I lose it, and there's no one there. There's no one there to sort of stop you fall. There's no one there to help you up. Luckily, I've never felt suicidal, but I have felt, oh, I can't be bothered anymore. I've felt that way, and that particular night, I ordered a pizza, and going back to what Josh said about laughing, I'm the same. I have to laugh at things. I ordered a pizza, and as I'm walking up the stairs where I live, I've just toppled over and fell over backwards, hit the back of my head. And then the thing that concerned me was that, I hope I haven't ruined the pizza. And I picked the pizza up and it hadn't come out of its box. So that was, oh, great, that's okay. But then the next morning I woke up and I thought, yeah, I've got to do something about this. So I spoke to a girl at work, and she said, well, look, the company actually paid for Bupa Wellbeing. Why don't you do that? And I went through all the rigmarole of getting some counselling, and that really, really helped, because you're talking to someone that doesn't know you. I think if you talk to friends, family, whatever, they've all got a certain bias. But when you go to a counsellor, they don't know you, and so they're sort of coming from a perspective of that sort of perspective, and that really helped. And I had about 3 things that caused me problems. One of them was my job. My job was like, it was trapping me. Even though I'm working from home, it's trapping me, and I just didn't want to do it anymore. I've been doing it for like 40 odd years, and I had it out with my manager, and I said if I could leave tomorrow I would, but it's just the money. And he more or less said, well, hang on a minute, we can probably sort that out for you. And I spoke to HR, and they offered me a nice little severance pay, and I made that decision to leave. I'm leaving at the end of in 3 weeks' time. It's all happy. We're all good friends and that, I've got nothing against the company. They've been a wonderful company. But that was one thing. And that was like I just felt relieved, felt so good. But I still had moments, because I'm still single. I'm still alone. And it's what I want to say to people is it can take you by surprise. It's incredible. And I'm an emotional guy anyway, so I'll watch. I can't watch certain songs without either crying, and even uplifting songs, I can watch that, and even though I love the song, it brings me to tears. And I was watching. There was 2 things. I was watching a thing on Jimmy Greaves, who had just sadly passed away, and it was one of his clips where he's on TV, and he's making these jokes, and I was laughing. I was having a great time. Oh, Jimmy Greaves, I said, he's so funny. I was in a really good mood. And I suddenly thought, yeah, we used to sing Jimmy for England, and I suddenly burst into tears again, because it was just this memory, and it was. And then I remembered when, a few days later, I remembered when I used to go, and my mum and dad during the school holidays used to drop me off with my nan and granddad. And I used to hate it. I was a real mummy's boy. And when they left me, I'll be in tears. Don't leave me. Of course, next day I'm fine, and granddad showing me woodwork or whatever, or taking me to the movies. But that one moment when they left, then I was really upset. And I suddenly remembered that my nan and granddad bought me a bike. I thought, they bought me a bike because they knew I was upset, and that's how I treated them. I didn't want to be there, and yet they bought me a bike, and I got upset again. And I just started crying. I'd been fine 5 minutes ago, and I found that my moods were going up and down, up and down, up and down. And I found talking to the counselling that really did help, and it's put things in perspective. I now know, and Tara, it's interesting what you said about crying, and it's okay to cry. So I now know that I'm going to have moments where I have these sort of down moments, and
and it's okay.
Even this morning, I don't even know the reason. I woke up feeling really down.
Yeah,
I don't know why. And
look, you've also got to try and relate some of these feelings as well. That there could be physical stuff. Maybe you're just feeling a bit, yuck, not in yourself. You could be. This sounds ridiculous, but it's true. You could be heading towards a cold. All sorts of stuff physically could be going on. You might not be sleeping quite as well. You might need to change your pillows. All these things can have an effect on a very low level on our mental health.
Well, it's interesting hearing Brian talk about anger management, and also about what you put up on the list of things to look out for. And one of them was aggression. Mm-hmm. And the person you see before you now is that's how I am with people. If you met me, that's how I am. But if I'm by myself and something goes wrong, it could be my PC not working. Mm-hmm. It could be trying to log on to a bank to do some work stuff and it breaks down. It could be anything. It could be just doing some washing up and then dropping the knife on the floor. It could be anything. And I get so aggressive. I haven't got the picture anymore, but I've got one of these metal rubbish bins. It is kicked to pieces. It is dented everywhere because I just have to let out and just lash out and kick it and kick it and kick it, and then sit down, literally out of breath. It's like, gee,
take up a sport, take up something. Take up something to release those pent up energies. I'd say
something positive, right?
Mm-hmm. But the thing was, when I was talking to the thing is, I have, because I'm going to get really lovey-dovey now. I'm quite a loving person, but I haven't got that anyone special to give that love to.
Yourself,
and exactly. It's pent up inside. It's pent up inside, and maybe aggression is how something. I just explode. Yeah. I love music. I love my guitar and that, but I still want to play aggressive music. I play lots of music, but I still want to play my guitar, and and that's what I'll do sometimes. If say Spurs have lost and I'm in a bad mood, I'll get my guitar and thrash my guitar and play it really loudly, sort of thing.
There's nothing wrong with like aggressive, is that the word, aggressive music or whatever. Your music's however you let out your emotions by listening to loud music, or some people go for a run, some people get involved with sports, some that take up boxing and at the gym and that sort of stuff to get rid of that pent up energy. But there was just something I just did want to sort of touch upon. Sean, I hope I'm not like hogging here, because you can jump in.
No, not at all. I could add on later.
It was when you were saying about, because you haven't got somebody in your life and that you're on your own and you can feel quite lonely at times. There's a big difference between being alone and being lonely. And you've got to, you're at a place now, which I can also, it seems like I can relate to a lot. I think when I think about myself, I've been a bit of a mess over the years, but being alone, I've now got comfortable. I'm single. I live alone, and I'm not looking for a boyfriend. that wasn't right there. that wasn't my little advert. I'm comfortable being alone now. Quite happy pottering around, doing my own thing. The thought of having somebody special in my life is not a focus anymore. Once upon a time, it was. There was things about as well where you mentioned like you felt when you were in a room like you were being ignored and stuff like that. Again, I'm not like a psychologist, but what I do know of it is like that can be related to things like feeling rejection, or maybe have been rejection in your life at some point. So when you say you've been speaking to counsellors, it's good. And also look at other types of counselling and therapy, ones that are specific and not just, because sometimes we can end up in the same kind of counselling over and over again when it really needs to be focused on a different area of your needs. Just like consider those things is what I would say. I don't know what you think of that, Sean.
was
No,
just
that's
saying,
exactly, that's good. All good points, Tara. I would also add that, Brad, one of the things that you started out with that had me a little concerned is don't minimize. Don't minimize your story. The people that we find in our inpatient settings for mental health who struggle the most are the people who don't seem to understand why it is that they feel the way they do, due to circumstances beyond their control. Whether or not okay, so what? You had a good childhood. That doesn't mean that you can't suffer from depression or some type of mental health, right? You can't look at somebody else's story and go, "Oh my God, isn't that horrific?" and not understand that you have the right to feel exactly how you feel, no matter what, right?
Yeah.
So don't minimize that. In the talk you have about just having these emotions, there's nothing more powerful than our emotional memories. So when you say that you just sat down and you watched a Jimmy Greaves documentary and all of a sudden you just start crying, that happens. That can happen.
Yeah.
That emotional memory that you have tied to something, it might not even be that you're crying about, a past time. It might be that you're at that point emotionally overwhelmed. Just let it come out. Let it come out. And don't feel bad that you felt that way or feel ridiculous that you're crying when you should be happy. Right? That sometimes emotions come out that way.
I had an incident a few weeks ago, which again I can look back on, and I actually had a chat with one of the girls at work. She's a big U2 fan, and I told her the story of when Live Aid was on, which was 1985. My dad, I went to a mate's 21st birthday party, but my dad actually watched it. My dad was into jazz and that sort of thing. He actually watched it, and the next day, he's Brad, Live Aid, that Irish band, that Irish boy, and he picked someone out the audience to dance with, and that was Bono at U2, and that's what he used to do. They just do something. He'd go down into them and pick a girl out and dance with the girl. And my dad said, "Oh yeah, that Irish boy, because he didn't know who they were. That Irish boy, that was so wonderful. He picked this girl out." And I told this girl at work this story because she was a U2 fan. And then I was just watching random music clips a couple of weeks ago, and that clip came on from Live Aid, and I'm watching it. And when I saw the guy pick the girl out of the crowd, again, I burst into tears because I remember my late father. And then the thing was that I sensed that, because this is what I do. If I've had a couple of drinks, I'll watch music clips and I'll send them to friends on WhatsApp, again, because I watch it by myself and maybe I just want to talk to people. So I sent this clip to her and I said, "Oh, this had me in bits." And then she came back to me saying, "Oh yeah, when he was like trying to get the girl out and he took a long time getting the girl out." And I said, "Oh, I was in tears, but I'm okay now," because I was talking about being crying. And she didn't really react. I thought it was a bit odd. And I suddenly realised the next day, she thought I meant I was in tears of laughter. That I wasn't. It was proper tears. And that's why she, and I actually had the conversation, because I'm normally quite open with people. And I actually had this conversation with her the other day. I said, "Oh, look, when we was doing that WhatsApp the other week, I was actually literally crying. It was sadness, not crying of laughter. But I don't think you got that sort of thing." So it was sort of, it was.
Thank God for emojis, eh?
Well,
so Brad, I hate to interrupt you, and I know we're in the middle of a great conversation. I would love to get our remaining guests an opportunity to have Tara and Sean speak, listen to them speak as well, because their insight has been amazing, and I don't want to necessarily lose that. I know for Tara it's getting quite late.
Can I just say that YouTube has really, really helped me getting to know all of you guys. I mean, I know Brian now on YouTube and getting in that community. I'm on a lot of streams, and that has really, really helped. And to anyone out there, talk to people. I mean, that's the overriding thing of this whole thing is talk to people. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to give help. Talk to people, and please don't bottle it all up inside. I beg of you.
Yeah, 100%.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm really honoured and privileged to be on, and I hope everyone that's got problems can somehow sort them out in whatever way they can.
Yeah, and sorry, Tara, you go ahead. You want to
Good for you coming on, Brad.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. Fantastic stuff. Looking forward to chatting with you again in other streams, and thank you for telling your story. It's been great. Really appreciate it. I think we lost Brian, but I am going to bring in Kirst. I think she's not going to be on camera today. She's just going to join us from an audio perspective. Kirst, are you with us?
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, we can hear you great. Good
great.
to have you here.
Good. Yeah, so hi. So before I get started, I want to say a huge thank you to everyone who has tuned in, everyone who's spoken and participated with the stream so far, and especially to both the Bryans and the other guys at Tottenham On Tour for obviously hosting this. I'm sure a lot of the viewers will be able to relate to some of the things that have been discussed, or even the links that have been sent. Hopefully, you know, they'll be able to seek help using those if they need them.
Thank you, Kirst. That's great.
That's all right. So
nice.
yeah, just basically with me, I've come on really to, well, I don't know, like kind of maybe to somehow prove to myself that I'm not the only person that's kind of experienced the things that I have. So for about 4 years, on and off, I've suffered with postnatal depression. Last year was the worst it had pretty much ever been. There was a point last year where I genuinely believed that I wouldn't have seen today. And I genuinely believe that if it wasn't for the support of my partner and everyone who I've met, obviously through the Tottenham community, like the YouTube family that we have, I definitely think I would have been in a really, like, a lot worse of a place. Yeah, it got to a point where it started off really when my first daughter, I found out I was pregnant with her at a really young age. So I was 17, she wasn't planned or anything like that. And I was at like a stage in my life where I was your typical goody two shoes at school. Like I did every revision like session that there was. I did all my exams, got all my levels and what have you. So it was such a big shock, like, to my family as well. And it wasn't a family member who said this, but it was someone who I'd worked with at the time. They kind of constantly made comments like, oh, you're going to be one of these teenage mums that have like 20 kids by the time like you turn 30, and just making really awful remarks. And there was like, oh, I'm surprised that you even know what it is at your age. And it was kind of comments like that made me feel ashamed. Like, this was a time in my life where I was already experiencing so much, like so many big changes. Like, all of my friends was 10 and 18. They was going around the town, and obviously I'd not been able to do that yet. And I knew I wouldn't be able to do that for a very long time. And to have other comments made to me about what was going on in my life really affected me, and it made me feel like really lonely. And I just started really like hating myself for it. And I remember I hit, like, this is when I think things really kicked in, like how bad of a place I was in a few years ago. Was, it sounds really, I'm sure it sounds really silly, and people probably think, oh, why would you think that? But I remember when my daughter was born, I had this like huge gut feeling that it took me a really long time to kind of even come to terms with the fact that I'd given birth to her, because she was an emergency C-section. So to me, I just didn't feel like this, that kind of maternal instant bond that a lot of people have. And it was that kind of feeling that made me hate myself so much. And this is kind of where things stemmed from. I constantly like comfort it, and it was just a really, really bad time for me. And I remember like she would be crying, and there was just, I was in my parents' spare bedroom, and she would just be there crying. And I remember just feeling so numb, and it was like early hours in the morning, and I was doing everything I could to try and like settle her, and nothing was working at all. And I remember just sitting there and just looking at her and just crying myself and thinking, why can't I do this? Like, why can't I do anything like to help her? And thankfully, with the help of a family member, me and my partner managed to get our own place. So the pressure was eased off me a lot. He obviously helped out with a lot of the night feeds and stuff, and things tended to get a lot better for me. And then it wasn't until last year I gave birth to our second daughter, when it just, something that I thought I'd moved on from returned. And it was the worst it had ever been. I thought I was bad before. This was nothing like it. I remember, like, even now, like nearly a year on, I remember clear as day, I was going to cross a road just to go to the shop, and I had this vision, and it was so clear to me of, for some reason, like, even though I always put the brake on my pram, I just had this vision of my pram going into the road and getting swiped by a car and my baby like dying. And it was that moment I just pulled my pram, like, even though the brake was on, I literally picked my pram up and just pulled it back, and I was just sat on this floor in the middle of the street, in front of one of the supermarkets, literally just sobbing and sobbing, because I thought, like, why the hell have I just imagined that? Like why am I thinking stuff like this? Like, she was so young, and obviously I would never ever wish any harm on any of my children. I don't even know even today why I thought that. I think it was just kind of like, maybe, I don't know, maybe anxiety of losing a child or something, like, because she was a C-section as well, due to complications. So I definitely didn't have the easiest of pregnancies with them both, and they're both very, very clingy with me for this reason. And just all these, like, kind of little panics that I have about the thought of losing them, or these incidents, it just made my postnatal depression so much worse. And I kind of got in my head thinking, like, am I being a drama queen? Like, am I being ridiculous here? Like, why is nobody else, why have I never heard of anybody else do this before? And I don't know, like, this was kind of like springtime last year. And I remember when we finally managed to overcome this, it took me a few weeks to get back, like, properly go outside with confidence. And then when I finally managed to get around to doing it, I remember being in Asda, and I did something so simple, like just reach up for like a bottle of milk, and I dropped the milk on the floor, and I was just frozen stiff, because I genuinely believed that for some reason my daughter, who was holding on to the trolley, someone had just randomly came and taken her. Like, I genuinely believe that someone had done that as I had turned my back, and I don't know where that kind of instant panic came from, but I remember just having like this huge panic attack in the middle of the shop, and there was milk all over the floor, and I was so embarrassed. I literally didn't go back for so long after that happened. And I think it was this point when I really thought to myself, like, right, like, I need to kind of get my shit together. Like, I can't keep having these panic attacks and these imagination. I can't think of the phrase.
Thoughts.
Yeah. Like, I can't keep thinking like this. Like, it's not healthy. It's not right. And obviously, I didn't know anybody else who'd ever experienced anything like it. So I was just like, is it lack of sleep? Maybe. But then my partner's always been really helpful. Like, we always took it in terms of like the night feeds and stuff. So I thought, oh, surely it's not lack of sleep. But yeah, I managed to seek counselling. I managed to get help. It was confirmed to me that it was postnatal depression, and things did ease up. But I found that they only started easing up when I had a distraction. So around June time, I put more focus into football, like you, Tara. Like, I used football kind of as an escape, like something that made me feel like me, and not like mum, not like friend, not like anything like that. It was just something that I had a genuine love for. And it was, I remember it so clear. I remember being on a comment on Tottenham away, and both the Bryans was with them at the time, and there was like a big, I think they called it something like 9 at 9 or something like that. There was all these different streamers, and I remember just getting so involved in the comments, and I thought, oh my god, like, this is fantastic. And I genuinely loved what they was all doing. And Bob, God bless him, he'd reached out to me, and he said that he wanted to do a show with me. He wanted me on like the show one time. And I went on, and we just kind of went from there. And every time I kind of was in such a low space, I remembered that these guys had offered me so much kindness. And I don't know, like, I don't think any of them will ever really realize or understand just how much, like, they saved me back then.
Yeah.
Because I was at a time in my life where I was having all of these panic attacks, and I don't have many friends in the outside world at all, just because obviously I kind of distanced myself from everybody when my first daughter was born. And yeah, just knowing that these guys have just always been so supportive with me. And even like, say if I was on a stream and my youngest Paisley, if Paisley had woken up, like I have screenshots on my phone still from months and months ago where I'll be on a stream and she's there with me. Like the guys have just always been so understanding. And yeah, everything just seemed at peace for a while. And then I had to return to work early from maternity leave in September. And then this is when it kind of got bad again. So I took like a huge back seat from the streaming. And only recently in January, I started coming back into it slowly. But yeah, it was just such a whirlwind of everything seemed to be happening at once, so many different times in such a short space. And I just honestly cannot thank the support of everybody who I've met through the love for Tottenham, whether that be the YouTube family or whether that be just friends who I speak to in the WhatsApp group chats or on Twitter or anything like that. Like even just a simple, hi, how's your day going? Like for someone like me who doesn't speak to many people, like in the real world, like that helps me like feel like people want to know me and not just want to know, do you know what I mean? Like I can be me. I don't have to just be mum. I don't have to just be partner. I don't have to be daughter or friend or anything like that. So it's just a really nice escape. Like I was looking into everything earlier when you was all looking at the links, and I never actually realised until tonight that there was a support group out there called Pandas, who it stands for Postnatal Depression Awareness and Support. And if I knew what I knew now back then when my first daughter was born, I genuinely believe that I probably would have been a lot better at handling things perhaps if I had that kind of support to talk to, because like even today, like my family, they don't know anything about any of this. We all get on and things, but we just don't talk on a personal level like this. The only person I really spoke to about it other than friends is my partner. So it has been quite lonely having to kind of carry all this like stress and worry. And then there's also like going back to Josh saying how he was obviously bullied in school and things. I had it quite bad growing up because, as I say, I was kind of like one of those people who always wanted to do well at school. I wanted to get all of the best grades and what have you. And it didn't help the fact that I have always had red hair. So this was something when I was growing up that people like to nitpick at. And I remember when my first daughter was born, I absolutely hated myself. And I remember crying so much to my other half because she had my hair colouring. And I remember thinking, oh my God, if she grows up getting bullied the way I did for something that she cannot control, like she's going to blame me, she's going to hate me for it. And I don't ever want like my children to resent me for something when I honestly, I'm not religious, but I prayed and I just remember begging and begging when I was pregnant, like, please do not pass this kind of like this genetic thing like onto her. But now that she has the red hair, like she is the most perfect little girl and I would not change a single thing about her. And I hate myself for ever wishing that on her, like when I was pregnant. But I now know, like thinking back to how everything was, that when she's older, as her mum and as someone who has grown up, even now today, like there are people who make comments about ginger hair. Like I know that I can be that kind of support to her if she ever experiences anything like it. I can be like, look, you're not alone. Like you are not the only person who has this. Like I have ginger hair. Like my twin brother, he has it as well. No one else in our family really does. But I can, like me and my brother can help her, like if she ever needed it with anything like this. 'Cause some of the things that some people can come out with are absolutely awful. And I know people kind of would think, oh, it's only a hair colour, like it's not that big of a deal. But when you constantly get remarks and things like these little things, like something that you see every single day can build up and it can become such a massive like self-hatred. Like I absolutely hated my hair growing up, whereas now I've accepted it, and I do love the colour, and I love hair colour, like absolutely adore it. And I just don't ever want hair to feel the way that I did growing up or anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was it's definitely just one of those things where I think just kind of coming to terms with the fact that I can't control something is something that I've spent so long trying to work on, that I just need to, like, even now I need to realize that I just need to sit back, realize, like, look, it's done, like, you cannot do anything, just kind of accept it, and then I can make peace with it. It's like sorry, I know I feel like I'm rambling on here.
Oh,
But-
don't worry, Kirsty.
It's fine.
But yeah, with the whole football thing as like my escape, it really did help, because it wasn't just like what happened in the outside world that helped, but I'm only 22, like I'm still pretty young, and to have 2 C-sections, like that has a massive effect on your body. Like I now have like these 2 huge scars on me. I have a belly that literally has got scar tissue that will not turn up, it won't move or anything like that. And obviously I've got all these stretch marks. So on my like personal accounts, I'm seeing all of my friends who don't have kids. Well, I say they're friends. I have these people on my account who don't have kids, who are turned, they're tanned, they're living their best life on holidays. And last year, because I was experiencing all of this, I decided to stop using the account. I made a football Instagram account, which I only follow like football based accounts on, like all the guys here and what have you. And it's the same with my Twitter. And I put so much focus into those because I know that I don't need to worry about anything like that. And I think that it doesn't matter. Like I've realized that it just doesn't matter what other people look like. Like I need to kind of accept what I look like, and then I can kind of move forward with everything. But yeah, that's something that even today I'm still working on. Successfully though, like without going to the gym and things, I do feel like a big benefit from this time last year to now. So that's something that I definitely do keep reminding myself about. Like I often take like a monthly photo and do like a little pic collage, and then I can compare and see like my progress and things. So yeah, I just kind of do things like that as like my way of coping with all of these changes that have just happened and stuff. So yeah, that's basically about it. I'm just glad that I've managed to actually say it out loud, because I've only
Kirsty did amazing, by the way.
You've done so
good.
well.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Did you just say you're only 22?
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
So well spoken. I was blown
Literally,
away.
I feel like I've just listened to the story of a 45-year-old.
Yeah, I felt the same thing. I was like, wow.
What you've been through in just a few short years.
Yeah.
That's
thanks, guys,
yeah, and
honestly.
there's been some traumatic. Some very dramatic things happen in that short space of time, and you're doing amazing. You love your kids, and when you were talking about the postnatal, when I pick through, like I say, my 50 years, I'm 50 next month, so I had postnatal depression. So when you said, first of all, I'm wondering if there's anybody else out there who's felt how I do. And you started to relay the story about the pushchair and crossing the road and what have you. I was like, literally, my mouth fell open, because that happened to me with my youngest son. I crossed the road with him, and I had visions of me getting on the bus and just disappearing and not coming back. And then one point where I thought he was going to fall out of the pram. In fact, I think he nearly did, because I took my eye off him. The way the pram was, it wasn't like, it was hard to describe, but he almost nearly slid out.
Yeah.
And I was absolutely beside myself. And I rushed home to my husband at the time and just said, I don't know what's going on, because I was in such a state. So, and I'm glad you found pandas, because they're not alone with postnatal depression. It's so many, and postnatal depression can actually stay with you. If it's not dealt with, you can actually still be suffering it when your kids are teenagers. So it's something you have to work through. I'm not an expert on that or anything. I'm not an expert at all. As like Sean said, we don't believe in them sort of people. But but what I'm saying is I don't know enough about it to talk about it, other than from a personal point of view.
Yeah. honestly, Tara, just
definitely-
knowing that you've experienced something so similar to me, like that, honestly, that took me back when you said that, because I have spent literally the past 4 years thinking, like, am I insane? Like, is this just me? Like, what is wrong with me? Like, am I a terrible mother?
No.
And to know that I'm not alone, like, to know that someone else, obviously being you, has experienced that.
Yeah,
That is a massive, massive comfort.
The simple fact that you are sitting here saying how much you worried about your kids, and you are not a terrible mother at all. All the thoughts you're having are completely understandable, and I'm not going to say they're normal. I don't know if that's the word to use, but they are real, and they happen to a lot of women. And your body is, like you said, your body's changing because you've had 2 children, and yes, you've had to have them through C-section. That's quite a traumatic thing to go through. It's a kind of, and I haven't had a C-section, but I'm only going by what I've been told. It's a kind of double whammy of the emotions of like, oh, I couldn't have it through the natural way, but I've still got this beautiful baby. So you take it easy and you've done so well.
Yeah.
I could go on forever about what you've just been talking about, because there's so many things in there that you will find so many women relate to.
This honestly is why I came on, because I just wanted to know if there was anybody who could kind of connect with how I felt, because I genuinely didn't know that there would be. So honestly, thank you so much for saying what you have.
No, you're very welcome, and you're doing amazing. And you're
Cheers,
only 22. God, you're only 22.
I know, incredible, actually. Yeah, incredible.
Yeah.
I have to say, first of all, Brad, I'm sorry, and Kirst, I'm sorry that I missed the beginning of you, because my Wi-Fi, which I'm still waiting to get set up because it decided to crash on my mobile data on my phone. Kirst, what you've just done is incredible. You know how close you and me have become since being introduced through Pop Spur. What you've just done is absolutely phenomenal, because obviously you're speaking from somewhere where this has mainly been men speaking about what they go through, and obviously we see these things, but to hear you speak about things that you've gone through, especially as a young woman, and then I can only imagine what it felt when you heard Tara say that she's been there in that same, like you said, when you hear that it's not just you, and this is how powerful talking about this kind of thing can be.
Yeah, absolutely.
The intrusive thoughts that you were talking about as well. It's like you think you end up and so for some mums, it can be so bad that those thoughts can be almost like having. Whereas when you were talking about your, fear that your youngster was going to get hurt, and you were visualizing it, I can remember visualizing my son stepping off a train platform as a baby, as a little one, and we were nowhere near a train station. All these intrusive thoughts, they're normal. I'm using that word normal again because I don't quite know the right word to use, but they are.
It's common, I would say.
They're common experiences and thoughts that a lot of women have. Because also, don't forget, it's the mama bear. It's the protective instinct as well. That
definitely. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, no, go on. Go on.
I was going to say, when my youngest was 6 weeks, literally, I'd taken her 4 head jabs. I got rushed to hospital that evening. I had to have an emergency surgery on, like, a kidney stone was trapped, basically, but it was huge, and it was, like, kind of going towards my bladder, and it would have caused, like, loads of internal damage. And they didn't pick it up because I had my C-section, so the pains that I was having, I thought it was just healing pains. But I was in hospital for, I think, 8 days when I had the baby. So I was away from my daughter. It was during the 3rd lockdown. So I wasn't allowed any visitors. So I was on my own. So I kind of felt really disconnected when I gave birth. And then to have this kind of disconnect again, but from both of them, because I was in hospital for about a week. This was when she was only 6 weeks. So I think that being away for them both for so long kind of did make that anxiety a lot worse, and that's because it wasn't too long after that when all of these kind of thoughts and things started happening. So I do think that kind of that time away from them definitely did kind of like trigger them.
Yeah, you're just doing so well.
Thank you.
I'm just keep going.
First, I hope at the very least you've realized that you were definitely not alone, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's really blown my mind.
Mean, not only you're not alone, like in a 4-person panel, one of whom is female, you've already got somebody who can really empathize with what you're going through, right? So that's how not alone you are. Okay?
Yeah, and if I could just chime in a little bit here too, I don't remember specific details of it, but as a father myself, I had some pretty wacky thoughts about my son too, not specific to the same, but it is. I think it comes with being a parent. I would imagine the connection and that it's different for the mother, but it being a parent, I think that it comes with that difficulty, and you're not alone, definitely.
And dads also can have postnatal as well. Sorry, just to say, dads can go through postnatal as well in their own sort of way. It can affect their mental health. So they too have to kind of remember if they're feeling these thoughts to speak to somebody. I imagine that Panda, I can't remember, so that's right.
Yes, Panda, that's right.
They're there for dads too as well. I think it's a family.
Yeah, they are. 1 in 10 people get it, and 1 in 10 women, and then I think it's something like 1 in 15 or 20. It's one of them males. So it is actually quite common in men as well, like dads, uncles, grandparents, things like that.
Brilliant.
Yeah, thank you, Kirsten. Thank you so much for your story. It's really fantastic to hear.
No problem at all. Thank you so much for your support, guys, and for having me on. I really do appreciate it.
It was our pleasure. Absolutely. Sorry, Tara.
Always, Kurt.
Yeah. Cheers.
No,
cheers.
I'm fine. That was good. Really
excellent.
Fun.
Thank you so much, Kirsta. We're going to get on to Phil, but
Lovely.
amazing, and looking forward to seeing and chatting with you again.
Lovely. Thank you.
Cheers, Kirst. Have a good one.
Thanks, Kirst.
All right, let's bring in Phil. The one and only Phil.
Evening. How you doing?
Hey, Phil. How are you, mate?
G'day, Kurt. All right. Just before we bring it, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Might be a little delayed though. What's up, Bri?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I think he's delayed, so I'm gonna move on with that, Brian.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit delayed. I'm going to turn my camera off. And Phil, I'm with you. I just want to say once again before I go off and let Phil talk, I'm going to turn the camera off. Yeah, go on.
All right. Oh man, when the internet goes, it goes real bad. So Bri's listening. So Phil, welcome to the channel and welcome to the show. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts, buddy.
Yeah, again, I think when I start talking, I'm going to be very much what Brad says. You know, when he's like, "Oh, this is just a small thing and it's nothing really major." But do you know what? The more time I live with this, what I feel I'm going through, the bigger it is. And you know, I think you were saying earlier that where people are like, you know, I know how you feel and stuff. And if I'm honest, I don't think anybody knows how I feel other than me. So my kind of situation now is I separated from my wife 19 months ago after sort of 20 odd years. But one of the biggest issues I have, despite, you know, everything else that goes with it, is my daughter. So my daughter is 15 now and has suffered from anorexia for 2 years. But pretty much in the whole 18 months I've been away, I've hardly spoken with her. I could probably count the number of texts I've had from her on one hand. It's just like she's got into a place where she doesn't want to contact. And, you know, for me, we were always so close. It was like, you know, life for me was perfect because, you know, you had this talented, beautiful young girl, and now it's like she's a distant memory. And it's just, it's not even coming to terms with it. It's having to live with that sort of day in, day out. I think I sent Brian something the other day. It was one of my friends had sent me this poem, and it was like about you don't suffer loss just once. And there's a bit in there where it says, you know, you wake up every day and momentarily you forget where you are. And then as it dawns on you again, it's like it starts the whole process again, and you get up and you go to work. And I work from home, so I don't tend to leave the flat very often, but it's just that whole process of you wake up and you think, yeah, no, it's not, it's still there. I find myself in meetings at work where, camera gets switched off because something's happened, and it's like, I don't want to sit and face stuff, and you just go through that. It's like that vicious cycle, and it's like being able to try and sort of break that whilst ultimately self-doubting yourself all the time. I know I've suffered with big style anger issues and stuff, but having done some counselling, it is still anger issues, but what it is, it's that I've got such a low opinion of me that I put myself, everything that possibly that you could say badly about yourself, that's how I treat myself. So everything you do, it's like you've got somebody sat on your shoulder going, I wouldn't bother doing that. You're going to get it wrong. You're going to get it wrong. You're useless. It's that self-torment all the time. And that's coming from me. And I guess until very recently, I didn't really realize how long I'd been living with that. But do you know what? It's years and years. And I started a new set of counselling with a new counsellor last week. And one of the things she said is, like, I totally get that, but I've got nearly 50 years to undo. So I'll have some friends who say to me, well, you just got to learn to live with yourself or learn to like yourself. And you're like, if you've grown up detesting the person, when you look in the mirror, you're like disgusted at what you see and everything that goes with it, to suddenly wake up one day and go, do you know what, that guy, he's great. Yeah, let's really go for it. It's just really difficult. And, you find yourself in that vicious circle. I spend a lot of my time, I call myself the ostrich, because it's like you just try and bury your head in the sand and just, try and get through whatever you can as best you can. And yeah, it's just been really, really sort of a tough time. But I think the worst thing is knowing how long it's been going on and basically not done anything about it until sort of very recently.
Yeah, Phil, I get that. Like I told my story earlier in regards to my alcohol habits. They've been my entire life, non-addressed, just lingering and progressively getting worse. So, Tara, Sean, anything to chat about?
Well, thanks for just being brave enough to come on, Phil. Honestly, I mean, this is just to tell your story. I know you feel like, this isn't anything that, again, minimizing kind of, this isn't, considering what everyone else has gone through. Maybe this is nothing, and it is something. It's something for you to come forward. I mean, what you're going through, anybody would feel kind of some of the same emotions. I know you feel kind of alone in that aspect, but believe me, there's, I can't empathize with what you're with, but I can sympathize for sure. It kind of what you've been going through, and to understand, how long this has been going on, and now to come to that realization that, maybe this has been going on longer than I actually thought. At least you're kind of making some, at least you're coming to an understanding of starting that process to kind of get help, right? Is that, do you feel that at all, Phil?
Again, that's what I suppose. Yes, I do, but it just feels, honestly, if I'm looking at it thinking how many sessions or how far the journey is, there's such a big part of me that just thinks, you know what, I wish I didn't have to go through with this. I've got a good friend that I met doing one of the courses. There's a mental health centre here, and we kind of got close. And he's in exactly the same situation as me. Doesn't like himself, had a lot of heartache and stuff. And it's for me, it's so easy to show empathy or sympathy towards him, and he's exactly the same with me. But if we flip it and look at ourselves, we're both like, if we both drop dead tomorrow, neither of us would be bothered for the other one, but they would for themselves, if that makes sense. And it's like, it just feels that it feels such a journey that I don't know where I'm aiming for. That's one of the biggest troubles that I have with it. It's like, where do you want to get to? And it's like, I don't want to wake up every day and just feel like it's the end of the world. And pretty much at the moment, that's how it feels every single day.
Does it feel like pretty deep loneliness?
Yeah. You know, I mean, I have to say, obviously, meeting so many guys doing YouTube and the channels and everything, I can't tell you how much that's helped. You know, for the first 9 months, I would work at home all day, go out for a walk after work, and then come home and sit and watch TV and do exactly the same at the weekend, because all of our friends were kind of like family friends. So they've all stayed with my ex or my daughter, and it's kind of, I've moved on and haven't really moved on anywhere. So you kind of, that loneliness side has just been, it's been really sort of difficult, but it's changing now. You know, there's a lot of people I can speak to. You just got to reach out and stuff. So it's definitely a different situation, certainly to how it was this time last year.
Is there still some grief related to the breakdown of the marriage as well that you kind of go through?
Probably not so much that now, but all the stuff that goes with it. So, you know, there's huge finance stuff, there's huge friendship, but I guess without seeing my daughter, who I was close to, I had my son from my first relationship, and I don't see him very often now, and it's like history's repeated itself, and I was very conscious. I didn't want to have another child or anything like that, because I didn't want to have to risk going through it. And, you know, we were very close. We had a child and everything was great. And then things changed. And I would say probably my characteristics, my mental health has probably not helped that in any direction whatsoever. So there's a real bit of, where I feel what I do about myself, when I put that in and I'm like, my God, this is my fault. This is all down to you. And I know it's not all down to me, but you still punish yourself more than you would.
So you feel guilt?
Yeah, because, it's like I had a good relationship, I had a great relationship with my daughter. We were, everything was okay. And now they have their life together. I don't see her, and I'm kind of...
Phil, did you say she was 15? Is that how old she is? Yeah, again, I'm not a counselor in any way, but having my son's 23 and sort of seeing the difference from how close we were when he was 12 or 13 to, all the way through till he was probably, even now still to some extent, that closeness does dissipate at that age when they're teenagers. I don't want to be with my parents. I don't want to talk to my parents. They end up separating themselves. I'm not saying for sure that this will happen, but the likelihood is that she will come back and want to spend time with you, and as she becomes more of an adult, that distance that's there currently will likely go away. And just from my own experience, just be there when she is, and try to be the best version of yourself when that happens, because that's an inevitability with kids, with especially with teenagers. And daughters and sons, or daughters and fathers, as well as mothers and sons. There's kind of that separation that takes place. So sorry, Tara, go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing with you, Brian. It's that is, without, taking away from your experiencing what you're experiencing and how you're feeling, and certainly not to downplay what you're feeling, but just to separate that little bit where what we're talking about with teenagers. This is a fact with teenagers.
It is.
Every parent I've ever spoken, I guess, will probably say the same thing. Yeah, there comes a point where they don't want to speak to you, they don't want to know you. It's uncool to be seen with mum or dad or whatever. You've even seen the comedy sketches on, where drop me on the corner because they don't want you anywhere near the
exactly.
that sort of thing.
Yep.
So to try to sort of understand that in your mind and say, this isn't a personal thing. This is just what kids do. This isn't normal sort of thing. But in terms of how you're feeling and the fact that you're feeling quite lonely and it sounds like you're feeling quite guilty, I would definitely say try and speak to, a counsellor or a therapist or someone, even if you don't want that kind of thing. Read some books, educate yourself on the stuff, because there's some great self-help stuff out there to kind of help you I don't even have words, rationalize it, but certainly process it and get an understanding is what I would sort of say.
That was my next question. Have you reached out to anybody in the community at all, Phil? Like for mental health services?
Yeah, I've done a couple of courses. There was one that I did called Building Resilience and one Mindfulness. So I've kind of done those, and I have. Well, the mindfulness really, I couldn't come to terms with it because it
It's
just
not
felt
for everyone. No,
no, it just
it's
felt
finding
too.
what's right for you, Phil. That you know, what sort of a person are you, and it's finding what's right for you. So, what I was going to ask is, whereabouts are you based? What area of the country are you?
Oh, South Wales.
South Wales, yeah. Because I was just having a quick look. Just it might actually have them down there. You ever heard of Andy's Man Club?
No.
They're an organisation. They're growing vastly across the country, and they meet up. They normally, actually, from what I can see, they're working. They manage to get space in like football clubs as well. Sometimes they pair up with them and they allow them to have the space, and it's like a meeting place for men who are all in similar situations where they can go and sit for an hour or so and have a good old chat and a cup of tea. And the guys who run it are all volunteers, and they themselves have also been in that space, so their lived experiences as well. I believe it's a charity that was brought together after the lockdown. I think it was their brother. I think he must have been called Andy. Forgive me for not knowing the full story, but they now have these meetings all across the country. But there's also others similar to that. So it's just like finding sort of like peer support groups is what you're looking for. Men's peer support groups or men's mental health groups for your area. And if you felt up to it, perhaps going along and by getting yourself out of the flat as well, that will help you to create new friendships.
Yeah, because that was obviously the struggle for the last sort of year, 12 months has been, we've been, again, in Wales, we've been in worse lockdown than, we never really came out of it. So from pretty much all the way through, all but a couple of weeks, we've been, in lockdown. So it has made it harder to sort of get out, and I did when I moved here, looked at little, I call them lonely hearts clubs, but it's not. It's like you were the sort of clubs where you were saying where you could just go and just
go and have a chat,
just get out and have a chat. Even if it's just like say a cup of tea and a biscuit, it's just it gets you out of the flat. Because if not, you do work, TV, obviously the YouTube channels, and the people you meet through this, have been absolutely invaluable and stuff. But
that's good. It's good.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you're welcome on this channel anytime, Phil. Whenever you want to chat, whenever you want to, talk football, talk about life, across the board.
Yeah.
And maybe one point just to end, Phil, is that especially in the line of work that I do, I see a lot of times we together, some of the counselors realize that they're not just they just don't have the connection, but that doesn't mean that somebody else might not. So they will rotate sometimes patients because so as the patient, understand that just because you've gone to counseling to see somebody and in your mind there wasn't that connection, doesn't mean that you couldn't have that connection with somebody else.
Maybe try again, kind of thing.
So don't give up after the first time.
So last Friday I went to stay with my friends, and again hadn't seen them since last summer, but I didn't, again, obviously never really knew because we're blokes, so we don't talk about it, but he's been having counselling for sort of 18 months, and basically for the last 6 months he's been like, you should go and see Rachel, just give her a go, see what she's like, she's really helped me. And I did. Last Friday I was there and I went to see her, and I've got like my next appointment for this Friday because it was like she just got it. When I was talking to her and saying, similar to what I'd said to you, I didn't feel that she was at any point going, well, don't worry about that bit. What I want to do is this. It was like she listened, and she was, it kind of felt there was a little way forward. So
good.
A small bit of encouragement.
Good counsellor then. If she's listening to you and what you want and basing the whole of the session around what you need and not what she thinks you should have, then she's a good counsellor.
That's right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
Well
cheers,
done.
Phil. Thank you so much for coming
Thanks,
on and
Phil.
sharing your story. And
Thanks,
again,
Phil.
we're here for you. Utilize the information that's in the in our description if you need to reach out to anybody. Maybe you can reach out to Tara or just look for something local, to where you are in Wales. But cheers for coming on, brother, and definitely looking forward to
Thank
catching
you.
up again.
All
Pleasure.
right. You take care, guys. Thank you.
Well
Phil.
done.
Have a
Well
good one,
done. Thank
Well
you.
done, Phil.
All right, so we've got Dermot, who is our last gentleman who's coming in here. Dermot, how are you, sir? Good to see you.
I'm all right. I want to say a big up to everyone who's been on tonight. I mean, they're all legends in my book. Every one of them is an inspiration to everyone
Cheers.
on the chat and myself.
Thanks, Dermot.
And big up for you and Brian and Tara and Sean for doing this, because this is very much needed. Very much needs to be put into the mainstream about this.
For
And
sure,
I
Dermot.
think it's not talked enough about.
Absolutely. I just want to quickly apologize for Brian. He is with us and listening. He lost his internet, so just keep that in mind. But Dermot, I'd love to hear your story, brother.
Yeah, my story starts actually from a child. It's quite a long-winded one, but I'll try to compress it down to short bits. I was abused as a child by a family member. I won't mention who they were, but I know who they are. They're no longer with us, but for about 10 years, from the ages of 8 to 18, quite intensively abused, which led then to me becoming an alcoholic by the age of 14, 15. Was in the bed sit by the age of 14, still continued on from there. Then I had my eldest daughter who passed away 3 years ago. 3 years ago this April, she was born. Remained
Over here.
Brian's way behind, Dermot. Don't just keep rolling there.
Had her, and then I remained friendly with the mother. We lost contact. I was there with my eldest daughter up to the age of 10. And then, of course, I got married myself. And then I lost my youngest, Ruby. I lost her 19 years ago at the end of this February. She died 19 years ago. Struggled with mental health all of my life. Was diagnosed with emotional borderline personality disorder, plus depression, plus general anxiety. Was adopted, so I felt rejected by my birth mother for giving me up for adoption. Was then abused by the adopted family who I was adopted into. So I felt quite alone all my life. Always knew I wasn't the same as everyone else. Always knew I was different. Then found my birth mother, moved back home to Ireland again. And then about 5 years ago, I was in the midst of a very bad breakdown, ended up homeless in Dublin. Then one night I got so fed up with it, I went to Bray Station in Ireland and stood on the edge of the track to actually throw myself in front of the train, because I couldn't take the pain and the guilt and the pain anymore. But I saw at the other side of the station my youngest daughter with her hand up, stopping me, telling me not to do it. And that's what stopped me. I didn't do it because of her. I know a lot of people don't believe that, but I believe I saw her at the other side of the station stopping me. So I modelled on a family member, then found out where I was and took me in and sort of got me back on my feet again. And ever since then, I've just been got help from my mental health. Was then diagnosed last year in the middle of the pandemic with autism and ADHD and Asperger's syndrome as well, which made a lot of sense because it ticked a lot of boxes for me, how I was as a child, why I was not very good at school, why I left school at 14 with no education, couldn't read, couldn't write, taught myself to read and write, or taught myself to read. And then be 6 years ago this year, I met my fiance. And for the first time, the last 6 years now, for the first time in my life, I'm really happy. I'm in a really good place. Yeah, I have my flare-ups with my mental health and my autism. I have meltdowns and feel really guilty afterwards. But, you know, I've got 2 great stepsons and a wonderful partner, and found YouTube as well. So I do my own channel with 2 fantastic people. I do them with Coover and Phil, who you've just had on. I mean, I know I frustrate them to hell because of the autism. Sometimes I feel nobody likes me because that's in my head, that people only like me because they have to. They don't like me for me. And I feel everyone's talking about me behind my back. It's not paranoia. It's more, it's how I felt all my life. And yeah, it's been one hell of a roller coaster. But do you know what I mean? It's just really hard sometimes, and there's some days I just want to cry. I just want to burst into tears, and you know, and I do blame myself for my own abuse, so I shouldn't. I've been to Rape Crisis Centre for counselling, but I found talking to my fiance really helps. She listens and she understands. So that's my story, sort of in a nutshell. But it's very nervous tonight, and
Dermot, you did absolutely amazing.
I'm trying not to burst into tears. I've actually got Queen, who's one of my favourite bands, playing on the TV, and I keep looking at it just to give myself a little, like a...
You're doing so well.
You're doing so fantastically, Dermot.
It's like a help mechanism for me, so I can know I'm in a safe place. But yeah, it's I've been through a hell of a lot. Yeah, and everyone sees... Sorry,
no, go. Sorry. Pardon. I was just going to say earlier. I put it in our private on the group chat here. There's a book that that's my Geordie coming out. Book, we say book up north. Yeah. There's a book that I read, and he's absolutely brilliant psychologist and therapist, I believe he is. You might have heard of him, called bear with us. I've forgotten his name now.
Was it Perry or something?
Perry, that's it. Yeah, no, Bruce Duncan Perry. You heard of him, Sean?
No, but I ordered the book once you.
Oh, yeah, he's brilliant. He's really good.
So it's
anyway,
on the way
this
tomorrow.
book is called "What Happened to You," rather than "What Is Wrong with You." Okay, and it's a book. It's conversations. Now it's with Oprah Winfrey, because obviously she used to do all her shows, and she used to talk to so many different people and hear so many different stories. But the conversations are between her and him, and he goes into his the work he's done with people over the years. He was absolutely amazing, and the stuff you will learn from this about why we behave in certain ways, especially when you have suffered abuse as a child, and the trauma that it has created it for you, and you're now having to deal with in later life, and how you understand it all. So it's based on trauma, resilience, and healing. I would really recommend getting a book like that or similar. He does another one called, and I've just ordered it, but I'm afraid I can't tell you what it's all about because I got it for Christmas. I'm such a sad person asking for these as Christmas presents, but I did. He does another one called The Boy That Was Raised as a Dog, and some other stories. And again, it's all related to past traumas that people have gone through as children. And yeah, honestly, I go on about people saying, read and educate yourself, because it's such a big part of your healing.
Congratulations for being where you're at, Dermot.
It's taken a lot. I mean, I did find my daughter again. We did find each other. My eldest one, but before she passed away, which was a big wrench for me. It still is. I mean, I try not to let my depression or my mental health define me. I try to define it. I always say for me, getting up in the morning, brushing my teeth, washing my face, getting dressed, and making a cup of tea is a big thing for me. Everything else I do in the day's bonus. I know not a lot of people will understand that or get that, but for me, it helps me.
No, you're doing brilliantly. That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
So brave
And-
for coming on too.
Yeah, great story, man. Incredible what you've been through. And
I mean, Cooper's always said he wants to write my book. I think after this, I think I might sit down with him and write it out.
yeah.
Yeah, and also the autism. I think that's a big thing as well. I think especially being diagnosed. I mean, I'm 45 on Saturday, and being diagnosed in your 40s is very difficult to get your head around.
Did that come as a? Can I ask you if that came as a bit of a relief to you, Dermot, getting the diagnosis? Because I've just from experience, I've seen some people, especially when they're diagnosed with like an adult ADHD or autism, can kind of pinpoint certain times in their life where like, yeah, that's it.
Makes sense.
Now it makes sense. Now exactly what I was going through back then. That it's almost like the diagnosis kind of ties everything together and makes it okay, right?
It did, yeah. I was at the point like that's why I wasn't good at school. That's why I was good at in a routine. I was like getting up, going to work, coming home.
Yeah.
When my marriage broke up, when I got divorced from my ex-wife, that really threw me out of sync, and I would just went into alcohol. I went into not really wanting to do a lot, but for the last 6 years, I would say it's been the happiest time in my life. And that's the only way I can describe it.
It's like earlier when Phil was talking about his marital breakdown and being on his own and how you. I think with a lot of men, when you get married or you're in a relationship, you're not like women. You don't keep those friendship circles as much. Sometimes you may have the odd buddy, but you don't have like women, where we have so many different friends and we're off to lunch and we're off to this, that and the other. But guys tend to be just they concentrate on the home, the family, and going to work and coming home, and that's their routine. And then when that's taken away, it's a bit like when I was talking about the connectedness at the beginning. If you haven't got these other things in your life, you're left adrift. And I think that's where men struggle. Because you don't have those friendships, and it's important to still have your own identity when you're married. I just feel that's
sure. It does. It didn't help that my best friend actually had an affair with my wife, so that threw a complete spanner in the works for me. I can laugh about it now. It's not even laugh about it. I can accept it now. I'm thinking, why didn't I not do the signs? But no, but thank you for having me on tonight and just letting me tell my story. And if it helps one person tonight, then that's all I wanted it to be.
Very brave, Dermot. Thank you.
Cheers.
For sharing.
I mean, it's a great positive story to end on too, because you said 6 years of positivity and things have been good and
happiness.
Yeah. So
that's
just
it.
really happy to hear that. And thanks for coming on, brother. Really appreciate it.
No, thank you very much,
Dermot.
Yeah. One other thing, Dermot, you got to fix your audio. We'll talk about that. Reach out to me, man. I'll get you sorted out.
Yeah, I know. I did send it in to get it clean, but I sounded like I was on Mars the other day. So
it's a bit better tonight. It's a bit better tonight. I was a little worried when I saw you in the bottom. I'm like, oh, Dermot's coming on. My ears are gonna go. No, but great story, mate, and pleasure to have you on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Really
thank you all
pleasure.
very much. God bless you.
It's been a long stream, guys. We are 3.5 hours in. I honestly, Sean and Tara,
I don't know how I feel bad, like even thinking about having to go, because I was like, how is Tara doing this?
I know.
I can't let her outlast me.
Yeah, she stepped up and Tara, thank you so much for staying as long as you have and with the day you've had, and it's late for you. So thank you for everything. Really, like if I could clap or if we could all clap, we would be clapping right massively. Yeah, that's it. It's past 1 a.m. right now, right? Around 1 a.m.
It's actually nearly 12 o'clock.
Oh, just before midnight.
Yeah, I don't have work tomorrow, so.
Oh, we got lucky then, I guess.
All right.
But thank you both, though. Seriously, like for the insight and what you guys offer and both of your experiences, and just the having you here for all of everybody coming in and being able to talk and being able to bounce off them. I wasn't sure how that. I don't think Brian was either. How that would work. Because we weren't quite sure, but I think it was absolutely fantastic. All the insight was amazing, and everybody in the comments, and everybody who came on is just just buzzing and just happy that we were able to do this with you guys. So thank you so much.
I think you guys have done
very,
a
very well.
great job as well, right? Like, thanks. You came up with the platform, and we're just little cogs in the wheel.
Yeah, I would say little. It's just incredible value in it. I'm going to bring Adam on real quick as well. He's with us. Ad's has been in the comments all night, and he's been sort of just talking to people and listening to the conversation. Thank you, Adam, for everything you've done, and appreciate you being
Thanks,
there. I know
Adam.
it's not the most glamorous thing to be doing, but your work was appreciated. And Brian, I know is his audio is so crap that he won't even hear me say this probably by the time I end the stream. But
Have to shout.
yeah, exactly. But Brian, we'll chat afterwards, mate, when your internet's back. And yeah, just again, thank you everybody who joined us, and thank you everybody who's going to watch this. Do you want to give us a quick update, Ads, where we are? Do you have the screen shareable, or do you?
Yeah, no, but I thought I can share my screen there with you.
Yeah, we didn't reach the goal of 2,000, and it's not a big deal. Like I said, this is going to be happening for the rest of the month. For every $602 for everybody who donated. Incredible that you were able to do that.
That's really good.
Really, really great. Just appreciate everything you've given. And again, if you can let other people know throughout the month that this is going to be continuing, and you can donate, we'll be sharing that link in every stream we do, which will be 2 or 3 times a week. Really appreciate it. So Ads, you can take that down now. That'd be great. And I'm going to say that's it. It's a hard one to end, but it was a great stream, and really everything really positive despite some of the difficulties people are going through. We have this community, we have these people and these resources. Let's use them, and let's help each other as much as we possibly can. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah, take care. Thank you for
guys.
having me.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Tottenham On Tour. Tottenham.